The biggest upsets of 2025 in gaming happen in ways that you probably didn't expect. Now, some are with respect to sales, some are with attention and acclaim, and some are just in the way of awards and that level of celebration. Now, obviously, we're using the word upset here to mean a variety of things. Maybe it was an upset in a particular genre. Maybe the established order of big AAA games eating up all the conversation. Well, that got upset this year. Maybe folks were just upset that one game won all of the awards. Now, I want to know what you think was the biggest upset. What was the biggest sort of surprise or crazy turn of events in 2025? It was a bit of a strange year because I'm going to kind of give you my top three. I think there were three things that happened this year that I would sort of say are the biggest upsets or the biggest things that like nobody really saw coming. Now, if you like these types of shows, it's a Safe for Work podcast about gaming that I do Monday through Friday. Make sure and hit subscribe and the bell button. We also do uploads and opinion pieces, so be on the lookout for those. I've got one right now about Arc Raiders and the matchmaking. So let's get into this. Make sure you guys are smashing that like button. I know a lot of you are watching live right now. So the first one feels like a long time coming. The claims of something being too big to fail are often bad omen for something right before it comes out, but that was certainly said about Call of Duty, and according to recent reports, Battlefield 6 has outsold Call of Duty Black Ops 7 in the US and Europe, and this is the best-selling game of the year right now. Now, December could tilt the scales. Call of Duty can sometimes go a little wild around the holidays, but that's unlikely given the consumer reception for Black Ops 7 being so poor, and there's not really a whole lot of inertia or velocity for that title. Even Battlefield 6 has had a bit of a slowdown in their own player base, so these games sometimes are pretty quick flashes in the pan with respect to one of the other upsets this year we'll talk about in a moment. But according to Screen Rant, this marks the first time a Battlefield title has ever beaten a Call of Duty release in sales for the year. Now, that does not mean a handful of things. I think a lot of people jump to conclusions when we talk about this sort of thing. It does not mean that Call of Duty failed or flopped. It's still one of the top-selling games this year. It does not mean they even failed to hit their needed targets. Like internally, they may be satisfied with the amount of money that it made. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what is stated. But what it doesn't mean is this clearly means you cannot stay king forever. And based on how they've responded to this, they clearly seem a little bit rattled and feel the heat from this visible and measurable disruption. Now, I said this before Call of Duty came out. It's not just about how much Call of Duty makes every year. It's always one of the top selling games. They always make a ton of money. It's about how much of a percentage of drop in sales or player activity for a title like Call of Duty. That can be significant. Just a single-digit percentage drop for a game of this size can mean hundreds of millions of dollars lost. But seeing Battlefield 6 top the sales charts is not the only thing this year that was unexpected. Sort of adjacent to this situation of kind of disrupting the live service space and the shooter space, well, the other big upset of the year is Arc Raiders, and it didn't necessarily... Excuse me. It didn't necessarily upset anybody, but it certainly upset the established order. Steam charts are showing this thing rivaling its record concurrent player numbers once again, and this is 2 months after it has been out. That is very difficult to do. Now, you can say, oh, the Christmas noobs and the recent sale is helping. Okay, Battlefield 6 and Black Ops 7 are not seeing that level of jump from the holidays, but Arc Raiders is, because I think word of mouth is really spreading. Arc Raiders is seemingly defying all of the odds. And the number one reason that I thought this game would struggle is apparently something the devs anticipated. Because I said, listen, extraction shooters are punishing, people don't like to be disrupted, and they don't like to lose stuff, okay? Well, I have a recent video about PvE lobbies being basically confirmed by both the developers admitting to behavioral matchmaking as well as the community proving that it works. So it seems that the developers were well aware of the thing that I was worried about. I was like, man, extraction shooters are just always going to struggle, and they seemingly prepared for that by making the game very friendly to PvE-focused players. If you don't believe me, there's over 1,000 comments on my video about this, and just peruse the comment section if you think that there's not a large portion of PvE-focused players having a largely PvE experience in the game. They're not really experiencing all the struggles and frustrations of a classic or traditional extraction shooter. Now, here's the thing. I think this is playing a huge role in the game's success, especially when you look at a poll that I conducted on my channel. It has now went from, like yesterday, it was like 2,000 responses. It now has over 3,000 responses, and the greatest number of folks said they were focusing on PvE. 42% of the responses said, yes, I focus on PvE. The smallest response was, yeah, I focus on PvP. Only 4% of people responded and said that. Now, 30% did say they focus on both. But that's still most people saying they prefer and focus on PvE. Now, this is just a small sample, but I think it speaks as to why so many people are reporting that PvE matchmaking totally works in Arc Raiders. The devs knew they would need it, and they clearly went to great lengths to ensure that it would work. And I think that is playing an enormous role in player retention. I think it's playing an enormous role in word of mouth spreading, and this game sort of upsetting, as I said, the established order. This kind of reminds me of Helldivers 2, and when it went viral, and everybody was just having a great time playing and goofing around and making funny clips. Arc Raiders has had a very, very similar experience. Now, speaking of retention, there is attention that has been retained, and attention and glory was definitely upset this year. This was not a year where we spent the most of the year talking about big AA, AAA, big giant blockbuster titles. Attention and glory was definitely upset this year by Expedition 33. It won a record number of awards. It won in a category that many claim it didn't even deserve, and really, it showed that you don't need a big budget or a big team to steal the limelight. They obviously did not upset the sales charts as big AAA games continue to dominate that list, but we live in an attention economy, and Expedition 33 certainly won that contest in spades this year. The soundtrack trended, the game sold more copies than they expected, and it won more awards than basically any other game in history. Now, this leads to my honorable mention of the upset this year. It's not just that Expedition 33 upset the established order. The AA and indie game upset was visible. It should be very clear to big AAA games that they're not the only game in town anymore. Now, again, I don't think this disrupted revenue. It's not like big AAA games sold poorly because games like Expedition 33 or Blueprints or Silksong or Hades 2 were getting a lot of attention and doing rather well. I think that funny little co-op game called Peak sold like over 10 million copies. Okay, that's not upsetting the revenue stream because that's not a full price game, and the amount of money generated by a game like Battlefield 6 is significantly higher, as it should be. Larger company, larger budget. But you're not the only game in town anymore. Small, scrappy studios can take up a lot of the attention of the gaming world, and much of the attention of the gaming world was dominated this year by games like Expedition 33, Arc Raiders, Blueprints, Silksong, Hades 2. These are small studios with small budgets and smaller games, and they ate into the public attention pie. Listen, if Battlefield 6 can beat Call of Duty in sales, like if that's possible, then listen, AA and indies rising in prominence and even rising in sales is certainly something that we could see continue into the future. In other words, if Call of Duty's not king in the sales charts forever, then nothing is. And that is an upset that I think we can all celebrate. Good games climbing, good games being celebrated and supported. We all win when something like this happens. But those are just my thoughts. And now I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put in the comments below if you're watching this later. What to you was kind of the biggest upset or the biggest surprise or kind of crazy turn of events this year in gaming? Put that in the comments below, and I'm sure we'll have a lively debate here in the live chat. That's why you guys should be here for the live stream. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, I should say. Do it in order there. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. That does support the video and help more people find it. We've not been live for more than about 8 minutes now, so that's a great opportunity to get more people in here. Yeah. Yeah, Sven, that's a funny meme from the show. Yeah. I will say that the actor for Holly's got a promising career in front of her. She's very, very talented. Hang on, I got to close these trailers. And Ganks, I got to thank you. Let's get the member goal pulled up here and add to it. We're at 505. You guys might notice the goal is a little bit higher for the week, but that's because we jumpstart the week with everybody who's in Member Plus or above. That's why we're tracking it. So you guys started the week with already having 440-something members in the total. So make sure you guys upgrade to ensure that that number gets a boost every single week. And make sure and celebrate those as well, because it adds to the total. Gang says, here's to the end of 2025. Looking forward to another great year of content, homie. I appreciate that so much. What a year. Let's see if 2026 can top it. We'll probably do a stream about 2026 tomorrow. So let's try not to veer into that territory and to, kind of cannibalize. This is more about 2025, because I think you're right. I know you're not doing that, Jay. I'm just trying to fence the table a little bit here. And you guys can use the question command. Submit questions or comments for me to react to with that question command about anything that happened this year in gaming that you feel like was a big upset. He didn't say Embark was an indie dev. Yeah, I didn't say they were an indie dev. They're like a AA studio. I said an indie game AA studio upset. So you're not correcting anything. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that's the trend. Smaller studios, like Embark is, I think, around 300 employees now, but that's something that's grown over the years. That didn't just like suddenly happen. And I would consider them more be like a double A studio. They're not a big AAA. They don't have a big budget. They don't have like some massive amount of like ownership protection. I mean, I think they've got themselves set up rather nicely, but like they kind of came out of nowhere if you really think about it. Yo, Cujo with 29 months. Thank you so much for renewing your membership. I speak really fast, so maybe you just misheard me. I was kind of saying that there's been a bit of an upset this year, and I feel like Arc Raiders is part of that. They're AAA devs. I don't know if I'd classify them as like a big AAA studio like the team behind Battlefield or the team behind Call of Duty. Like, you're talking about absolute David and Goliath scenario. Barrett's chosen with a gifted member, and it adds to the total. And Cujo192, I can add you to the total, but you got to be Member Plus and above, and you will help that number go up. We're tracking there. Yeah, I don't know if we would classify them as AAA. They don't seem to be even remotely in contention of size and bandwidth as some of the companies that they are essentially going up against. What's good, Furious Legacy Gaming? We need to workshop a term for this, but it's like the barrier to attention is lower than it's ever been. A game like Balatro can catch fire with $0 spent on marketing. Isn't Embark owned by Nexon? I didn't think they were owned. Did I misspeak? I thought they were just the publisher. Is Embark Studios owned by Nexon? I might have been mistaken. Oh, they are owned by Nexon. Okay, so maybe I guess you could say they do fall into the category of being protected by a traditional publisher. So they're certainly not indie. I didn't say they were indie. I just view them as AA. I mean, I think you can be owned by a studio and still be considered AA. Like the team behind Hi-Fi Rush, I don't think anybody thought, oh, that's some big AAA studio. That was a smaller studio that, yes, Xbox happened to own. But I don't know. To me, that doesn't seem like the established big, huge studio behind Battlefield or the 11 studios that touch Call of Duty. That's like another category of developer and size and money. I don't think Embark's getting that kind of funding from Nexon. I mean, maybe they are now. I mean, they're probably spending quite a bit more on marketing. But to me, that's a bit of an upset when a roughly 300-person team can come out and deliver a brand new game in a space that's dominated by Call of Duty or Fortnite or Apex or Battlefield, and they come out swinging and maintain their own and hold good player base numbers. I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty big deal. Embark was indie, and the former CEO was also at EA and bought Embark and caught a lot of flack for buying them before Arc Raiders. Yeah, I think if we're looking in the aftermath of the success and getting purchased by Nexon, I still think they're part of the theme this year. Of they come out and they're lesser known. They had the finals. They were having some success with the finals, and they drop an extraction shooter that was originally going to be a looter, and it kind of takes over. Their player numbers are impressive. Again, you're comparing them. I'm comparing them at least to established giant titles like Battlefield and Call of Duty. To me, I think that would be... Yeah, I would consider Housemarque to be AA, even though they're owned by PlayStation. I don't think Housemarque or Returnal or their upcoming game Sorrows, I don't think anybody's saying, oh yeah, that's a AAA studio and a AAA game like Wolverine and Insomniac. I feel like there's different, levels that are not rigidly defined. I just feel like it's easy to kind of tell the difference, at least to me. AA and Indie have a lot of overlap on the Venn diagram. Yeah, I think... yeah, and Concord. To me, I feel like the way that this gets talked about, it's more about like you have established giant studios and you have like your pillars that seem immovable, and then you have folks come in that are proving that you don't need to have a massive team and a massive budget, and you can really cause some disruption like we saw with Expedition 33. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Battlefield 6's team and budget is significantly smaller than Call of Duty, and yet they came out swinging this year and they outdid them. I mean, I could be wrong, but like I don't think there's 11 studios working on, and it's not that 11 studios were working on Black Ops 7, but like Call of Duty as a franchise is just so enormous. It's almost like you can't even call it like AAA. And I don't like quadruple A. That's kind of a meme. What would be an example of an indie AAA game? Baldur's Gate 3? Yeah, I mean they're indie because they're not owned, right? Because they did the fan funding through early access on Steam or whatever. But when did Nexon buy? In 2021, Nexon completed the full acquisition of Embark. Yeah, I was wrong about that. I thought they were just the publisher. I didn't know they were owned. Because I feel like there was a conversation that they were having about the freedom that they were given. And I feel like it was described in a way, to me, it sounded like a publisher relationship. I mean, maybe that's just a good sign that, like, it doesn't even feel like they're owned because of the freedom that they were given. To experiment and to change things. Larian's privately held. Yeah, CD Projekt Red. What they paid for Witcher 3 with like a grant from the government or something, didn't they? Perfect Dark could have been a quadruple A game. Good call. Those are definitely AAA games. Yeah, so like Larian's not traditionally owned. CD Projekt Red is not traditionally owned by like a publisher. And yet we would probably argue they put out AAA games. At the very least, they're at AAA quality. The size of the studios is also playing a part. I don't know how big Larian is. Embark was only about 50 employees about 5 years ago, and they've grown to 300. I don't know what threshold we would consider AAA. They're probably on the cusp. So maybe it's not that they were disruptive by being small. They were disruptive by being lesser known. Like they weren't really known or established in the space. Like you've got your CODs, your Battlefields, your Apexes, your Fortnites. You got your kind of like, and your Rainbow Sixes and your Valorants and CSGOs. Like you kind of have like your tried and true long-standing shooters. Arc Raiders comes onto the scene and just from a studio that was lesser known. I mean, they were known for the finals, but I don't think the finals was hitting levels or thresholds that they're hitting with Arc Raiders. Which again feels like a disruption. It's like, oh, okay, you don't have to be the tried and true franchise or the biggest name in town. You can come in lesser known, maybe less people, less money, and you can really, really make a splash. Not just Arc. I mean, it happened with a ton of games this year. Blueprints took over the news cycle for a couple of weeks. I mean, that's a pretty small game. And it really made an impression. Now, again, I'm not talking about like commercial revenue disruption because obviously these big games still make tons of money. But I think it's an encouraging thought to like smaller studios, medium-sized studios. Hey, man, you can come in and you can really make a run and make a lot of money or make a very good game and get a lot of praise for it. Same issue we always have. I don't know how to define these things for a 5-year-old. We sort of know, but it's hard to nail it down. Peak is $8. Yeah, like Peak, the co-op game where you're like climbing the mountain, that's $8. And so they sell 10 million copies. Well, one of the reasons they sold 10 million copies is because it's $8. A game like that, if it was, 50 or 60, obviously a lot of people would have balked at the price and been like, yeah, I'm not spending that. And I also think that then leads to there's not going to be significant revenue disruption in that kind of a situation. Like, you're not going to turn around and be like, oh my gosh, Peak sold 10 million copies. The established order has been disrupted and they're making more money than these big studios or whatever. No, they made an insane amount of money for what they created, and they were very successful. But they're not like coming in and taking over the revenue charts. That's just not going to happen when your game is $8. $8 is too much. I'm not spending more than $3 on the next Steam sale. You keep telling yourself that. You can quit anytime you want. Do you think Expedition 33 deserved Best RPG? That, I think, is one of the upsets this year that got debated quite a bit. There are people that are passionate on both sides. I've watched breakdowns, videos. I myself got early access to Kingdom Come Deliverance. And, people will say, well, you can't talk about it. You didn't finish it. Okay, well, you can still see quality. I didn't finish Baldur's Gate 3 either. It's not a game that's, for me. And you can clearly see Baldur's Gate 3 was a high-quality, well-built, award-worthy game. Like, there are plenty of people right here in chat now, there are gamers all across the world that could tell Baldur's Gate 3 was headed for lots of nominations and lots of praise. Even if you'd never touched it, you could tell. You could tell that. I've got 130 hours in Elden Ring. I would never dismiss somebody. Oh, yeah, you can't talk about Elden Ring unless you played as much as me. Even people that didn't play Elden Ring knew that Elden Ring was headed for a bunch of awards. You could tell from the reviews to the breakdowns to the streams and the clips and the way the critics received it, the way the users received it. And it was my contention from my experience with Kingdom Come Deliverance. I put up a first impressions video. I think first impressions videos are completely legitimate. People do it all the time. Apparently when I do it, I'm a tourist and a grifter, but I think that's totally fair to do a first impressions video. Okay. You don't have to finish every game to be like, hey, here's what I thought. Here's a great way to set expectations. It was a very positive video. And I just said it's freedom at a cost. Like, it's a very, very high reward, but also high risk game because of the cost of when you have that much freedom, there's all kind of consequences for what you do. You can get thrown in the stocks. You can get killed. You can have to, do a bunch of chores. You can have to work to earn money to get yourself out of trouble. All these sorts of things are happening in the game. And that, to me, leads to a far more robust, role-playing experience when you look at the inventory system, the crafting, the cooking, the making of the potions, the conversations with the NPCs, the emergent level of gameplay that can happen in a game like that. You don't even need to play it to understand. You watch one video or just watch my video about just how much can happen in the span of a couple of hours, and you're like, oh yeah, this game is a very, very high level of depth RPG. It's an immersion sim and should have been the clear winner for Sim of the Year. I mean, I don't necessarily know if the developers would even accept that definition. I think that they would say, no, we built an RPG. We didn't build a sim. I think they would say, no, we built an RPG. Like, that's what we went for. It's based off of the original, the first Kingdom Come Deliverance game, which has aged very well. We played that on stream a couple of times with Madam, and it's got an amazing story. It sets up the story very, very well. I felt like I was watching a TV show. So, to me, that was one where I think there was legitimate argumentation to be made, where that if you're going to have that category, I think that there was a game that clearly went farther than another in that category. I think that Expedition 33 is a very, very good RPG, but it doesn't even come close to the level of the systems and the depth and the robustness of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And, like, the funny thing is in this conversation is people will try to discount my opinion because I didn't finish Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I actually think that shows removal of bias to be like the game that I enjoyed more, the game that I feel like was tied for me for game of the year. I'm sitting here saying I don't think it was as good as this one over here in this particular category, right? So I think that removes bias. Like, I feel like this is what detractors do. They'll take everything you say and spin it into a negative. So if I would have said, oh no, I totally think Expedition 33 deserves to win, they would have said, well, you can't say that because you didn't finish Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I remove my bias and my preference from the situation, and I'm like, I liked this game more. I finished this game, and I still think that this game was a better RPG. Just if you look at what people were able to do, look at the playthroughs, look at the reviews, look at what people are able to do in that game within the realm of a role-playing game, it's superior in that department. So, like, it doesn't matter what you say, right? Like, people are just they're just hunting for the negative narrative. But I think that's totally fair to argue that you can be in a particular category. Like, you could have had a game in the action category not get nominated for Game of the Year, but still win the action category. Does that make sense? Like, just because you're nominated for Game of the Year doesn't mean you automatically win every category. Now, there were other debates and other things that I saw that I didn't think were legitimate at all. I watched King Thrash's video about the Game Awards, and it's one of the first videos I've watched by him that I felt was like just riddled with argumentative problems. I was like, this is not... I didn't like the video at all. I like him. I severely disagreed with so much in the video. There's so many problems with it. One of the problems was saying that Expedition 33 shouldn't be able to be nominated 3 times for performance. And I'm like, Expedition 33 wasn't nominated 3 times for performance. 3 different performers were nominated for performance. They just all happened to be in the same game. Like, the performance category, you're nominating the performers. For soundtrack, you're nominating the composer. You're not nominating the game. Like, yes, the game is getting quote-unquote nominations in the total, but Jennifer English got nominated, not Expedition 33. The composer got nominated. He went home with the award, not Sandfall. He took the award home, and it's sitting on his mantle. Jennifer English went home with the award. It's in her house, apartment, whatever. It's not sitting at Sandfall Studio. Like, Expedition 33 didn't get nominated 3 times. The performers all got nominated. I do not think you should limit the number of nominations on a game simply because you want other games to have a shot or have a chance. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. If this person did a great job performing or a great job writing a soundtrack, they shouldn't not get nominated because, well, the game got too many nominations. It's in art direction, indie, debut, indie, and game of the year. It's in these 5. Yeah, sorry, you performers don't get anything. Soundtrack guy, you don't get anything. Like, that doesn't make an ounce of sense. So I really, really strongly disagree with that premise that, like, well, they should limit the number of nominations on a particular game. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. If you're going to have games that are praised for how great they are, you don't limit that just because you're like, well, we want this to be sort of like a everybody gets a shot, everybody gets a chance thing. That's not what it's about. That's not what awards are supposed to be about. Yo, Kingslayer with 20 months of memberships. Let me add you to the total. Thank you so much. I didn't finish Black Myth Wukong, but it wasn't the game's fault. However, I can't say it isn't worthy of being on the best games of 2024 nominations just because I didn't finish it or want to complete it. I mean, that debate about Black Myth always cracks me up. It's like they're like, we don't even know why we came, you know? It's like, you should be honored to be included. You're the lowest ranked, like, critically acclaimed, from critical acclaim. You're the lowest ranked game to ever get nominated for Game of the Year. Like, you should have been honored to be included in a list of such excellent games. It's the same energy as the anticipation trophies, but the anticipation trophies are voted on by the public, which makes sense, right? You're letting the public say, hey, oh wait, no, that's not player's choice or player's vote. They did that at Golden Joystick. Golden Joystick, allows people to vote for most anticipated. Most anticipated is kind of a gimme. I mean, everybody kind of knows when a game like Elden Ring is being anticipated or a game like GTA 6 is being anticipated, everybody knows what game is getting that award. It doesn't really do anything. You're not being awarded for greatness. You're being awarded for people wanting your game. Like, that's, good for you, I guess. Black Myth was unplayable on console. Yeah, the idea that a game can ship in such poor state and then people act like it deserved it and it was robbed and it was snubbed. Maybe don't ship your game in crap state. Like, maybe be better. If you want to be nominated and win awards, maybe ship a game that's not in such terrible state. Like, I didn't want Jedi Survivor to get nominated for anything. That was one of my favorite games that year. I'm like, no, you shouldn't nominate games that ship like that. We should not be awarding studios that are like, here's our game. Yeah, it barely runs on console. It barely runs on PC. Come on. Games like this should not be getting nominations. What's wrong with anticipated? I'm not following. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think what he is saying is like limiting the number of awards so like other games have a shot. That would be about as meaningful as awarding somebody most anticipated game. Like, giving somebody an award for being the most anticipated game, like, what are you really giving them an award for? You're not awarding them for excellence in design or art direction or performance or soundtrack. You're saying, everybody really wants your game. Here's an award for that. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Shipped on UE5. I think it updated to 5.7. I don't know if they'll ever do it. I mean, the latest update made it better. But if at the time when they updated Black Myth Wukong, I was playing through Death Stranding 2. And I'm telling you, when you play a game at that caliber of optimization and performance, and then you go to a game that isn't in a great spot, right? It's playable, it's better. It's oil and water. Like, I can't do it. I can't go from a game that is clearly built well, optimized well, runs with almost zero issues, and then I go to a game that's like hitching and snagging and kind of stuttering. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not doing this. No, thank you. It doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm playing something that is in beta or something. It's so stark. Like, it's so stark. I think the contrast, you go from something that looks and feels amazing to something that's kind of so-so, and it just magnifies the so-so-ness. It's like, I'm not doing this. Participation, not anticipation, autocorrect. Oh, he meant to say participation. Got it. Even now, Black Myth Wukong isn't good. It feels bad still. I'm on the Pro. Yeah, I booted up on the Pro, and I ran around, and I got in a couple of fights, and I was like, it still doesn't feel great. I still feel like there's weirdness with the input latency and the drops. That's been proven. I know people will claim that that's not happening. It's been proven that it happens the way they use FrameGen. Listen, if you're going to build your game and you're going to use FrameGen to double the frames so everybody's playing a 30 FPS game, so there's oddities with input latency and dropped inputs, and then you're going to get butthurt that you didn't win Game of the Year, maybe ship your game in a better state. I would maybe do that first. I said the same thing about Jedi Survivor. I was like, that game should not be nominated for anything because it shipped in such a bad state. It was virtually unplayable on PC. It was so bad on console. They had to completely rebuild the performance mode. It took them 4 or 5 months. That's false about Black Myth. What's false about Black Myth? Most anticipated is like awarding past performance and marketing skills. Like, good job hyping people, right? The fact that GTA 6 won most anticipated 2 years in a row, you could just keep winning it. Just keep delaying your game. And 4 years strong, GTA 6 wins most anticipated game of the year. People are like, just ship the game already. You know what I mean? We know what you're doing. And a 5-bomb comes in from Behemoth. Thank you so much. We will do a community game night this Friday with you guys. That's what the unlock is for. You guys can help us get there faster if you upgrade to Member Plus. That's why we're tracking it right here. So consider doing that. You get into more content and it supports me directly. It makes the goal smaller every week. So thank you for doing that. Even if it did ship in a great state, I don't think it would have won anyways. You're probably right. It probably wouldn't have won either way. But, yeah, best delayed game. Right. And the winner of the best delayed game goes to Morning Lono. You got a PS5 Pro for Christmas? Yo, congrats, Sweat. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. I had to change the difficulty from Master Jedi to beginner just to finish the game. The game kept breaking during boss fights. Once they fixed it and I went back, I didn't have any problems at all. I think I had a few oddities, like there were cutscenes where there was weird stuff going on and like in the background. But I didn't have any like major performance issues. There was one fight where he had like an attack that was a range attack, and there was one time where I think it glitched and it like one-shot me, and I don't think it was supposed to. It was the guy, it was like your buddy, and it was where like I think we were on the ceiling and he shot like this wave or something, and it never happened again. It was the only time it ever happened. Like I literally died in one hit, and I was like, huh? And it was almost like I think it counted that it's like it hit me multiple times or something, but it only hit me once. That was the only weird thing that happened to me in Jedi Survivor. And people had said, I went to the Discord, I remember at the time, and people said that fight was kind of weird. They were having, there was something where he would get stuck and spam, like he would just keep shooting the attack or something instead of just doing it. He was supposed to shoot it 3 times, and I think somebody had footage of him shooting like, it was like he launched the attack like 6 times or something. I don't know. It only happened once, and then I was able to beat him. It wasn't like it kept happening. But there were some oddities in Tales of Iron. If you got too close to some of the enemies, it would like break their cycle, and they would do an attack, and they would miss you, but it would like the back of them would count. It was really weird. There were some fights in Tales of Iron 2 where I learned not, if you got too close to the enemy, it like messed up their aggro and their cycles. So I would literally stay on the opposite side of the room, and it helped. I knew I was in trouble when the loading screen was glitchy and slow for Jedi Survivor. It became my test to see if they had fixed the game. Yeah, I was on the worst planet. I remember uploading footage of it. It had been improved. I remember uploading footage because like I would just run around on that planet and I'd get like these massive screen tears and the whole game would like hitch and freeze. And so I went there when they said they had fixed it, and it was like, it literally was like night and day. I was like, it's not happening at all now. It was perfectly smooth, which I was very excited about because I was very much looking forward to that game. I loved Fallen Order. I beat Fallen Order twice. I upped the difficulty, and I went right back in and played it again. I thought there was something wrong with my computer at first, and being a computer guy, I spent hours going over my system. Yeah, it still has a terrible score on Steam, doesn't it? I feel like it does. It's literally a predicted search in my search bar in Chrome. It has a 68 overall. It's recently at a 75, so it's clearly gotten better. But overall, out of 45,000 reviews, hang on. Out of 45,000 reviews, it's got a 68%. I think for a studio and a game of that caliber, I just think that that's embarrassing. That just shouldn't be happening, you know? My biggest upset of 2025 is not getting any new news for Light No Fire. Not super upset, just hungry for new info. What's your biggest upset? To me, the biggest upset wasn't something that I even really expected, but it was Battlefield 6 outselling Call of Duty. I didn't expect that at all. I mean, they really set the table for it. They said they were too big to fail. And I'm not even saying that Call of Duty failed, but being outsold by Battlefield, that's a big deal. Like, and I don't even have a dog in the fight. I don't really play or cover COD or play in cover games like Battlefield anymore. I mean, back in the day I did, but I didn't even have a dog in the fight. I was just like, I don't think that's going to happen. I was of the opinion that like Call of Duty's always going to Call of Duty. It's just going to be at the top of everything, and it'll certainly be a big. It'll certainly be a big revenue generator. I don't think they're gonna necessarily like lose money. It's not about losing money. It's about making less than they want. Like, I think that's the thing is I would never think that a game that size isn't profitable. Like they more than likely sold enough copies to be profitable, as an endeavor. It's about, like, when we heard the report that they lost I don't know, what was it, 300 million or whatever. The number's not important. They lost X number hundreds of millions of dollars because they put the game on Game Pass, right? We learned that this year about last year. So when you hear that, it's not that they're sitting there counting their pennies. They're like, oh, we lost money, we're in the red. It's, no, we made less than we could have. Like, we fell short of projections or expectations. I don't know if that happened this year for Black Ops 7, but being outsold by Battlefield is a pretty big deal. Like, that's unexpected. It really makes you wonder, like, and then you see Arc Raiders rise to prominence with a smaller team, probably a smaller budget. They are owned by Nexon, but they're still smaller team, smaller budget, and Jiminy Christmas, that game's just dominating as well. Black Myth Wukong, largest Steam player count of all time, says something to me. They should have updated the Unreal version, though, but they decided to stay in Unreal 5, hence the optimization issues. But if you look at the sales reports, like, they struck a chord with one of the largest gaming audiences in the world, and they sold a game about Chinese folklore largely to a Chinese audience. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't take away from the game. Anytime you try to talk about this, people will inject what you're saying with things that you're not saying. So I'm being very careful here. I'm not saying that takes away from the game's commercial success. But, like, if you made a game in a similar state with similar performance issues and it sold millions of copies in America, and it was about, like, I don't know, early American settling, and the rest of the world just didn't respond as strongly to it. They bought it, they liked it, but not to the degree. You would have to admit that, like, okay, well, there's a reason the game sold so well in this particular region. Like, it was literally, like, made for that region. That is completely fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a game that strikes a chord with a culture and a people and does very well there. I think that's something that is, rather than people acting like that's not what happened, which they try to pretend that that's not the reality, and it is, they try to act like, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. It's like, no, it is true. It doesn't take away from the game's success, but it certainly contextualizes it. That's like the largest gaming audience, especially on PC. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, like, that doesn't mean it's worthy of Game of the Year. If you make a game that doesn't run well at launch, you leverage tech in a really weird way, like frame gen, you needed help to even launch, period, on console, like PlayStation had to step in and help. I don't know. Like, to me, that debate is propagated by people. It's almost always bad faith. It's almost always bad faith. They tried to turn, Black Myth into some culture war because Rebecca Valentine from IGN wrote a horrible hit piece about Black Myth. And I was very critical of that article. I was critical of the complete journalistic malpractice that was committed in that article. It was about as bad as when she wrote a puff piece for Bungie, like overlooking all their misconduct and trying to make them seem like the hero, right? Meanwhile, Christopher Barrett was still at the dadgum company in the wake of that article. And so her article was awful, but what it did was it turned Black Myth into this culture war piece. And so anything less than it's perfect, it's amazing, it's 9 out of 10, it's Game of the Year, if you don't buy into that, you're labeled as some kind of a wokey or some kind of a hater. And it's like, what? No. Like, I was looking forward to that game for years. The irony, too, is like a lot of people that'll say this, they weren't even following the dadgum game. Like, I was following Black Myth Wukong from the very first trailer. I said that it could have been a Game of the Year contender. It looked so good. And then I played it, and I was massively, massively disappointed. Like, that to me, it's like, if anybody was in the game's corner, it was me. I was furious when I saw the article from IGN about Black Myth. I was like, what are we doing? Like, what? This is not good journalism. There's no good investigation here. This is refuse, right? This is absolute refuse. And I was very, very angry about that article. But then I played the game, and within the perspective of a gamer, I'm like, this is in terrible state. It was the ugliest performance mode I had ever seen. And then we found out how they were using frame gen, and it was like, you can't do that in a game. Go read the interview with the developers from Lies of P, and they talk about how you need 60 FPS, you need that response time for games like this, where there's iframes, and there's parries, there's dodges, there's, what have you. They acknowledge in that interview, like, if you're going to make a game like this, you absolutely need the game to be just humming. It needs to be super, super smooth. This is why people were very frustrated with Lords of the Fallen when it first came out. It had a lot of hitches and a lot of performance issues that made the fights pretty upsetting or frustrating or what have you. Well, Black Myth Wukong launched and was virtually unplayable in performance mode. You're literally playing a 30 FPS game where half the frames are fake, so it creates all kind of oddities with input latency and dropped inputs. This is not opinion. This isn't subjective. This has been proven. It's been documented. That's what they did, and that's how the game ran. Like, that should be called out, and that should be criticized. What's interesting, too, is we're at a time in gaming where gamers are obviously starting to have more power and leverage in this regard. If your game comes out and it's not ready, if your game comes out and it has problems, you're going to suffer the consequences, because there's an ocean of games standing right next to you that people can play instead. There are free-to-play live service games. There are inexpensive indie and AA games everywhere now. And if you're going to launch your game and it's not ready, you should be treated poorly. You should be given, a lot of criticism for that. You shouldn't be given a pass because, IGN wrote a hit piece, so we have to defend this game to the death. And then you had people, obviously, that were defending it because you couldn't get it on Xbox. So the PlayStation guys, in my opinion, many of them overpraised it and overlooked glaring flaws. They would have never accepted that level of performance. If it was a multi-plat game, they would have never accepted that level of performance. They would have been just as critical as I was. I was critical from moment one. I was like, this is one of the ugliest performance modes I've ever seen. But because they could sort of, trot it out as a timed exclusive for PlayStation, it got a lot of, I think, unfair or undue, kid gloves or praise. So, who remembers FromSoft Fridays? Oh yeah, From Fridays. Agreed, it definitely should have launched in a better state. Still, after I built my PC this year, I'm blessed to run it with high frames. For sure, and look, it is a good game in its own right, but I don't think it was a Game of the Year contender at all. I just don't think so, and everybody can have a different opinion on that. Like, nobody can be right or wrong about that. It's my opinion that it wasn't a Game of the Year contender for a variety of reasons. Performance was a pretty big glaring one. You shouldn't be propped up on the biggest gaming stage of the year and said to be in contention for Game of the Year if you ship your game in that state. I don't think that should be happening. I think we should have standards. You would never award, a car that barely runs with a nomination. Like, this car barely runs. It came out and had all kinds of problems. People had to return them and, use warranties. But, this is one of the best cars this year. You'd be like, no, it's not. No, Lona likes to use his relatively high-end PC to do his job. Effing nerd. That's right. It didn't have enough females. Yeah, that one criticism was laughable. It was absolutely laughable. There's something doubly frustrating about people that review games like that. So there was the review that said there weren't enough females in Black Myth Wukong, which was stupid and ignorant. And then we had the, absolutely brilliant, take that the girl in Stellar Blade looked like a sex doll. Well, all that does, the reason it's doubly frustrating is, number one, it's ignorant. It's dumb. You shouldn't say it, right? It was stupid to say it about Black Myth. It was stupid to say it about Stellar Blade. What's frustrating is 99% of the gaming outlets that reviewed Black Myth didn't take an issue with there not being enough womans in it. And 99% of the people that reviewed Stellar Blade were not upset at her being hot or jiggly or half naked. Like 99% of the people that reviewed that game didn't even bring that up. One outlet, what was it, like IGN France said something about her looking like a sex doll. And what does it do? It creates this entire narrative that like, oh, the gaming press doesn't want hot girls in games. They're scared. They're angry. They. There's that mythical they. You know, they are upset and they are angry. No, nobody was. One outlet, one person said something, and it got turned into a whole thing. So it's like, it's doubly frustrating. It's like, number one, the person that said it shouldn't have said it. It's stupid. It's an ignorant take. And now you've created this wonderful grift that people can make videos about and be like, yeah, the gaming press is furious about Stellar Blade. No, they weren't. It reviewed fine. Nobody took an issue with it at all. Silver Subaru with 59 months on a VIP. Keep up the good work. Would like to see a demo of Light No Fire before the full game comes out. Let me add it to the total. I mean, yeah, I don't really have like this strong penchant for like, hey, we better get a demo or a trial of a game. I try not to do list of demands. So people will be like, what do you want to see at this event? And I'm like, I don't know. Video games? Are there any must-haves, this year? Yeah, good games. And then people, will kind of ask me a similar question that you just asked me. They'll be like, well, do you want to see a demo or a trial? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Like, here's my thoughts on a demo or a trial. I only want them to do it if it's really going to help. Right? I only wanted them to do it if it's going to help. If it's not going to help, then don't do it. Because there have been developers that have spoken to this, and they're like, if we're going to take the time to do a demo, we're literally working on something that you're actually never going to play. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. They have to work on a particular slice and build, and they have to make sure it's very, very good so that you have a good experience, because if you have a bad experience, then it puts a really bad taste in your mouth. First impressions are hard to wash away. We know this, okay? So I'm kind of not wanting companies to do that. Now, you might be like, but Lono, haven't you said in the past that you would love to see game trials return? Yes, that is not the same thing. There is an ocean of difference between a game trial and a demo. And the difference is, you're playing a trial of the completed product. So during the Xbox Arcade era, my wife and I did this all the time. We did it with Crimson Alliance. We did it with Gatling Gears. We would download a game in the arcade. We could play it for a little bit, and it would say, do you want to keep playing? Do you like this? Press this button to purchase. And you'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Well, I wasn't playing a demo. I wasn't playing something particularly built for me to play for an hour or two. I was playing the game itself and then was able to purchase it if I wanted. Now, early access is like in the middle. It's like a hybrid of the two. It's the game. It's what they're working on. It's what's going to be that we're all going to play in the end, but it's not necessarily done yet. So I'm okay with early access as well. I'm a big proponent of early access for any game of size, substance, or longevity. So Light No Fire is all three. It's size, it's substantive, and I think they're going to want to clearly have some longevity if they treat it the way they have treated No Man's Sky, right? So, to me, yeah, do early access for a game like that. Early access would have saved Diablo 4 a ton of trouble. I mean, a ton of trouble would have been saved if they would have gone into early access like 2 years before it releases. You go into early access, you let people play just the first act, and everybody starts talking about how your skill trees suck, everything's too linear, and it's boring, right? You'd have learned very quickly that the way that you had your skill trees in the rune system in Diablo 3 was so much better. This is obviously my opinion, but they would have gotten a lot of good feedback. I think Baldur's Gate 3 kind of showed this as I think a this is a good, I think, example or a case study in you can do early access for a large and substantive game. It doesn't even have to be a live service game. It's just a large and substantive game. Why can't I say substantive? Substantive game, and you get to, have the tires kicked, have the brake pads tested. You really put the car through the ringer to see, oh yeah, this thing can barely make a left turn, or oh wow, its acceleration's awful, or oh, its top speed's terrible, or oh, people really don't like where the cup holders are, whatever. Like, early access really gives you a chance of doing those test drives to get that early consumer feedback. So yeah, what Zubair is saying, early access is really good for games where there's tons of systems that interact and need to be balanced. Because you might be like, hey, we built this thing and this is really great. And people are like, yeah, but what if we didn't do it that way? What if we broke it, or shortcut, or exploit, or cheese, or this, or that? And then you're like, but we didn't design it to be played in that way. Oh yeah, well, that's too bad. That's how we're playing it. Or maybe that's how we want to play it. And then you end up with a game that, with some minor tweaks and adjustments can go in a much better direction. So I am more in support of early access and trials. Demos, I'm not going to say no to a demo. But I also think that a lot of development right now is just so much bigger, so much more expensive, so much more expansive that I think that time spent on a demo is largely, in many cases, it's probably wasted. Now, I will say this. There are development differences across, developers, and there's different schools of thought here. So you could have a game like Phantom Blade Zero, and Phantom Blade Zero is, slated to come out next year. But leading up to even being given a release date for Phantom Blade Zero, people were kind of confused by the release date, because you're watching vertical slices that look incredible. They look incredible. You're like, this game looks fantastic. Look at the combat. Look at the way that this game runs. Well, essentially, what I was told is companies like that develop a vertical slice, and they only focus on that. They make it as good as possible. Now, what this allows them to do is they can kind of go nuts. They're like, well, what if we let him, I don't know, do reverse parries and blocks in the middle of an attack? What if we increase the speed of the enemies, but we also, increase the window of opportunity for the player to parry or whatever? Well, what this does is it gives them kind of a playground to take risk instead of building some big gargantuan thing that's harder to do. So what they could have done, what they're able to do in this vertical slice is they're able to kind of turn everything up to 11, and they can kind of see how it shakes out. Well, if they're doing that, certainly Phantom Blade Zero could then let us play a demo that could be a handful of those vertical slices that they've built, because they've already made them. If they're playable and they run well and they work well and they've been optimized well, I still would come back and say, a handful of caveats here. The worry would be they're going to spend an awful lot of time making sure it's balanced, making sure it doesn't have any glitches or bugs, and that's development time that's wasted. They're spending time on something that's ultimately not the final product. It's just a slice of it that'll, basically not be what you play in the final product. It's this separate thing over here. So yeah, I think early access is probably a better approach. Diablo 4's issue was the game steered you towards certain meta build and then nerfed those builds. After all the updates, the build diversity is better across the board. Perfect Dark was a vertical slice. I mean, I think that's a generous way to put it. The way the guy described it, it was basically like a scripted sequence that they played in a very particular way. Like, it was pretty much what I told people that it was. Like, I'm like, that's not genuine gameplay. Yo, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. Yeah, guys, Feed doesn't have a badge. We have kind of brought things back home to YouTube, so we need to make sure Feed has his badge, especially if we're going to do Friday night. Friday nights are members only. Perfect Dark was a played trailer. Well, there was a guy from the team that said that, like, that was actually a build. they were doing something within a build that they had made. It was just very scripted. It wasn't raw gameplay. It wasn't like they were walking around an actual mission. It was basically an on rails. Yeah, like Jack Garland says, it wasn't on rails, but it was more of a tightrope. But it felt pretty much like on rails. It was nowhere near, final production or the genuine article. It was, yeah. A surprise gift arrived from Forza Horizon folks today. Thank you, Turn 10 and Playground, for letting me be a part of the reveal. Can't wait to play Horizon in Japan. Yeah, there's a brewing theory. Playground is going to be at the Xbox Developer Direct, and people are like, well, are they there for Forza Horizon 6? Or are they there for Fable? Love the Deadpool shirt. Thank you. It's the Salt Bay meme for Deadpool. Guys, if you haven't hit the like button, if you haven't said good morning, take a quick second and do that. That definitely helps us out. We just hit the 1 hour mark on the broadcast. Try to help us at least be at 200 likes. And weigh in on the chat. What was your biggest upset this year? Was there something, not that it doesn't have to be upsetting, but it could have been something that felt like a turning of the tide. It could have felt like a changing of the guard. It could have felt like something that you were kind of cheering for. Like maybe you wanted to see Call of Duty, be outdone by a competitor. Feel free to let us know what you think, and put that in the chat. You can also use the question command to submit questions. Perfect Dark never existed. They made a trailer, and that was all they had. There was no game for the trailer. I mean, the way the guy spoke about it, Corey, it sounded to me like they actually had a working build that they were moving around in. That's what it seemed like to me. Like the Perfect Dark gameplay was like, it was there. It was real. Like it was something that they had built. But yeah, it was Turn 10 is Forza Motorsport. Turn 10 is helping with Forza Horizon 6 though. So Turn 10 and Playground are both working on it. So it seems like it's a joint effort, which that to me makes sense. Like if you've got Playground working on Fable. Didn't they say Fable was gameplay but looks suspicious? Well, the Fable gameplay debate was, another hysterical display of denial that turned out to be something that now nobody wants to talk about because they were all wrong. I said from the very beginning it wasn't gameplay. I was like, that's not gameplay. If you're going to show me gameplay, it's always blatantly obvious that it's gameplay. I said that's simulated gameplay. And then when they actually showed us a pre-alpha build of the game, it looked fine. It doesn't look bad. It looks a little clunky. It looks like it needs some polish. But hey, it's like pre-alpha footage. Well, when they showed the pre-alpha footage, it was like, yeah, see, I told you. None of what they showed us was gameplay. Because when they finally do show you gameplay, it looks nothing like what they showed in the trailer. They did the same thing with State of Decay 3. It's simulated. It's not real. It's not raw. It's not like somebody moving around and making the character do things. Then you can see like a menu, or you can see the an overlay or a heads-up display. Now look, you can turn those things off for a trailer. That's fine. That's totally fine. But like, you can tell when you're looking at authentic, real, raw gameplay. You can tell. So, Perfect Dark was destined to be like Hellblade 2. I don't know if I agree with that. I think they had really cool ideas. It looked to me like they had a really, really great POV, and we're now hearing, like, I mean, it I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere. That nobody was expecting that to happen. So I think it could have been a great game. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I have nostalgia for Perfect Dark. So Turn 10 got turned into a support studio. Well, I mean, I didn't pay much attention to that, but like after what happened with Forza Motorsport, I mean, you probably wouldn't be handing them another project. Like that game launched in a terrible state. I don't know. I still need the That's Not Gameplay t-shirt. Thank you, Patrick, for renewing your membership. Guys, check your renewals. It is a great way to add to the total and get us closer to the goal. Is Hellblade 2 worth playing? I don't think so. I loved Hellblade 1, and I think Hellblade 2 has got to be one of the worst sequels I've ever played. It was so immensely disappointing. It's a technical test. I've said very many times that it is a gorgeous game, and I love Ninja Theory, but I feel like they got infatuated with the tech. They were more excited about the technology, and I think they just lost sight of the bigger picture. Like, nobody asked the question, should we make the combat entirely motion capture? Like, nobody asked if, like, that was a good idea. They were just excited to do it because it looked cool. And it did look cool. It did. I remember seeing the trailers, and I thought, my gosh, her movement and the animation and the attacks, they look awesome. And then I played it, and I was like, yeah, this didn't translate into better gameplay. It translated into regressive gameplay. It felt like a glorified QuickTime event. I didn't feel like I was actually in charge of the character at all. To this day, it baffles me that, like, long-standing gamers bristled at me saying that. It's like, it's a glorified QuickTime event. You know, for all the bluster and nonsense that gets thrown around about quote-unquote movie games where you don't actually have any gameplay, it was remarkable how many of those people couldn't tell that there was not a seamless volition in the combat in Hellblade 2. Like, it blew me away that they couldn't tell. It's like, you're not actually doing anything. You aren't. Like, you're... It blew my mind. It really, really did. Like, you could literally watch trailers of gameplay from Hellblade 1 and compare it to Hellblade 2, and you could literally see the difference. You're like, the speed, the seamlessness, the player volition, the ability to move, like none of it was there. How do you feel about the Order 1886? I never played it. At the time, when the Order 1886 came out, I was an Xbox guy. I never touched that. When I finally got a PlayStation, it was sent to me by Destiny fans that wanted to play Destiny with me on a PlayStation. So I made 3 extra characters, and I, got them all grinded and leveled up, and then I would run raids with people on PlayStation. And then I bought a PS4 Pro so I could play Spider-Man 1 and God of War 2018. So I don't have a history with PlayStation titles or PlayStation games. Yes, I'm the worst pony ever. Yes. It's remarkable how many people will insist you're something when you say that you're not. Like, that's... It's funny to me. They're like, but you are. Oh, okay. But I'm not. But you are. Oh, okay. I guess I can say that you're intelligent then, too, if we're just going to throw around things that aren't true. Did you play Rise, Son of Rome? I remember playing that, yes. I liked that. I thought that was a cool game. I remember my friends and I being in a group party talking about it. Like, that felt incredible. As far as at the time, like, graphically, that felt crazy. Now, it obviously was a very stripped down game and a very simplistic game. It wasn't like earth shattering with depth, but it was cool. I thought it was cool. You suck as a pony and a rage quitter? Yes. I rage quit so calmly they have to make me look angry in the thumbnail with AI because there's no anger in the footage. Oh man. Listen, I get it, man. Content funnel gets dry. It's dry right now, but just making stuff up. All right. I guess you could make videos about how I'm also tall. That would be about as accurate. Anyone playing Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang loving this game right now? No, I've not even seen anything about it. How are people feeling about a $30 Game Pass now? I wonder. I mean, I think now that the dust has settled, for some people that might be their big upset of the year was that another price increase on a subscription service that was, for a long time, great value. But to me, I still think people are going to use it. They might just use it more tactically. So if you're trying to be the frugal gamer and you're trying to spend as little as possible and you still, have your Xbox and you like Game Pass, I feel like a lot of people will just strategize around, you'll sign up for Ultimate, you'll play a bunch of games, and then you'll cancel, and then you'll wait a couple months and do it again. I don't know if a ton of people will do that. I feel like people are going to do a handful of things. They might just cancel because they feel like it's too expensive. They're like, man, $30, gee, many Christmas. I could cancel, and every 2 months I have enough money to practically buy a brand new game that then you can, take with you into the new generation and have a library that you're growing, as opposed to a rental service that they can move things in and out of the rental service. And if you decide, to cancel, you don't have access to the games anymore. So if you think about it in that perspective, like every 2 months you've got $60 to buy a game with. They're $70. Okay, fine. But still, you have that $60 that you're not spending on Game Pass. And every 2 months you have that $60 to put into, purchasing a game. Well, you don't lose access to that game in the future, unless, of course, you switch to like a platform where it's not available or something. But like, if you stop paying for Game Pass, you lose access to all those games. So I think a lot of people are starting to weigh those choices. And there are still people that think it's worth it. It's totally worth it to buy Game Pass for $30 and to always have tons of games to play. And Xbox XCOP YouTuber once said Lono built his channel on yelling at the screen and hating Xbox. Yeah, I mean, these guys write fan fiction about me all the time. That's what they do. Saying that I demand special treatment on YouTube. Well, that's not true. That's a lie. Making content that, lies about other people, I guess, is good for ad revenue. I said it this morning in Morning Coffee. You can make fun of me. You can call me names. You can put me in insult content. That's fine. Everybody does that. You don't gotta lie. You don't need to say that I'm saying things I'm not saying. Like, that just isn't necessary. You know what I mean? What was the genesis? Because of the ABK trial. Yes. If you were against the ABK trial, it had to be because you were anti-Xbox. I think this year, all those chickens came home to roost. I mean, you want to talk about the upset of 2025. For many people, they felt that this year, that their brand that they cheered for sort of evaporated. Like, it has to feel a certain kind of way for Game Pass to have its best year this gen. It's undeniable. I don't even think you can say subjectivity enters the picture. I think it's undeniable. It's a matter of fact that this is the best year Game Pass has had this gen. It got a very steady cadence of first party, from Avowed to South of Midnight to the Oblivion remaster. It got things like Silksong. It got things like Expedition 33. And then you also had Doom. So the cadence was there. The quality from third party was definitely there. It has to feel a certain kind of way for that to happen in the same year that you increase Game Pass pricing again. This is obviously after last year where you moved day and dates to Ultimate increased, right? So you increase that. Clip this and put Xbox bad, because talking about Xbox and the frustrations from the user base means I'm saying that Xbox is bad. That's easy. Another easy lie. Like yesterday, I was saying that Microsoft is the problem, and that gets described as Xbox bad. That has nothing to do with Xbox. That has to do with Microsoft. But, media literacy is in the toilet for people like this. So, seriously, like, this is their best year, and then you watch Game Pass get more expensive again, the hardware gets more expensive again, and you announce Halo for PlayStation. Like, there are very, very loyal Xbox fans that felt like this was a really, really rough year. This was the roughest year. It was one thing to be like, just 4 games. It's another thing to be like, oh, it's not just 4 games. It's pretty much everything. Oh, and yeah, we're not really a priority. Oh, and the best value in gaming just got more expensive. Oh, and hardware doesn't seem to be a priority. Oh, and, the last sacred cow is now going to the enemy. Like, if you stayed loyal all these years, that has to feel a certain kind of way. I think it's okay to be honest about these things. I think it's okay to just call the balls and the strikes. To be like, you started this gen with an idea. I was right there with you. as an Xbox fan. I was right there with the Xbox loyal, being like, this is going to be an amazing generation. The graphical fidelity they promised in 2019, up to 120 frames and instantaneous loading, like Project Scarlet, sounded amazing. And it's 5 years into the gen. You do not have exclusives anymore at all. Well, PlayStation doesn't have exclusives either, really, because in the beginning of this gen, you had exclusives, even though they went to PC day and date. I said this yesterday in the green room. One of the reasons that I didn't like talking about this kind of stuff anymore is you don't actually get to have a debate. You don't get to have a debate. You're constantly dealing with people who redefine terms and redefine the parameters. So instead of enjoying the meal of a debate, like I love a good debate, I do. But we don't get to enjoy that meal. We're constantly trying to build the table to even have the framing set up for the debate, because they constantly restructure the argument. They constantly reframe and redefine terms, because now they're saying, well, nobody's really doing exclusives anymore. And there's like 8 asterisks after that. They're like, well, except for Nintendo, who's, having a record-breaking new generational launch. But yeah, we'll ignore them, the literal biggest player in the room. But yeah, nobody's doing exclusives anymore. They'll say PlayStation's not doing exclusives because the games eventually end up on PC sometime in the future. So they don't do exclusives anymore either. And it's like, well, wait a minute. The beginning of this gen, that's not what you said. You were celebrating exclusives. You called Starfield an exclusive. You said that the ZeniMax games would be exclusive. Nobody considered, well, these games aren't exclusive because they go to PC day and date. Do you see? It's like you can't even have a debate about the fundamentals of how the brand shifted because you're constantly dealing with bad faith people that will reframe everything and make it impossible to know which way's up. Well, yeah, no, there's no exclusives anymore. Yeah. You can't really take that as a mark against the Xbox brand because there aren't exclusives anymore. Except you have to completely ignore the market leader Nintendo. You have to completely ignore the other market leader PlayStation because, well, they eventually put their games on PC. Well, then why in the world weren't you saying that at the beginning of this gen? Why were you not saying that Xbox didn't have exclusives anymore? Because they were putting their games day and date on PC. Not like a year and a half later, 24 months later. They were doing it the day the game came out, and you still refer to them as exclusives. It is tiring. It's exhausting to constantly have people inject bad faith, redefinitions, reframing. It's like you don't even get to have a debate. It's like you can't even have a debate about like the merits of the brands and what they offer and their different philosophies and business approaches because you're too busy piddling around with this bad faith manipulation of like, well, but nobody really has exclusives anymore. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's like trying to, it's literally like when you're in a restaurant and you can't enjoy your meal because the table just keeps wobbling and stuff spilling and falling over. It's like the table's missing a leg. So you're constantly having to like hold the table up to like, oh yeah, okay, now we can. It's like you can't even get into the arena of debate because you're constantly babysitting terminology. Well, wait a minute. Why are we redefining exclusives now? Why don't we count Nintendo? I don't understand. Like, huh? Like, the debate about exclusives just gets resurfaced. All of a sudden, people are debating exclusives again, and, Sean Layden weighs in. And I saw a really interesting tweet about this. Somebody says, well, ask Sean Layden, what do exclusives do for the consumer? This is another tactic that's utilized. This is the exhaustion tactic. Let's retread the same tired argument over and over. Eventually people just get tired of it and give up. Like I did. I was like, I don't want to cover that brand anymore. I don't want to talk about their products. I don't want to talk about their games. I don't want to engage with that community because it is exhausting. Because that's what they'll do. They'll say, well, yeah, exclusives don't do anything for the consumer. And it's like, no, there is an established pattern, argument, and measurable track record of exclusives actually do benefit the consumer who, buys the game. Because you get a game that is made for a particular system. It has to be at an excellent caliber. It taps into things in the hardware that they can tap into specific to the hardware. You end up with something like Breath of the Wild running on a 2017 Switch 1 that seems impossible. You end up with that. You end up with games like you know, God of War 2018 and Spider-Man and The Last of Us Part 2 that were ahead of their time. Why? They're made for one system. There are people today that will circulate clips of Uncharted 4, and they're like, how is this even possible back then? This seems so ahead of its time. Yeah, it was exclusive to one platform. And everybody that bought that game and everybody that enjoyed that game benefited from the limited scope and the focused development. All of that benefits the consumer. And the person asking the question knows this, but they ask it because they're trying to use the exhaustion tactic. Well, if we keep bringing up the same point and you keep making people repeat themselves, they'll either go crazy or they'll get tired and they'll just give up, and we'll count that as a win. So it's like you're either dealing with bad faith redefinition of terms where people are just flat out changing the definitions. Like exclusive doesn't even have meaning anymore in the discussion because Nintendo is dominating once again and they're fully bought in with exclusives. PlayStation crushed it this year with 2 really strong exclusives. And guess where Yotei's sitting as an exclusive in the top 10 most sold games this year. It's highly praised, highly reviewed. It's critically acclaimed from a technical standpoint. Great victory for a good developer, Sucker Punch. But we're busy still doing this thing, like piddling around with this weird, silly, tired debate about like, but that's not an exclusive because eventually Yotei will be on PC at an undetermined date in the future. To me, you can't really have the discussion about how the brands are so distinct and different now because the terminology is a train wreck. There's not even agreed upon terminology anymore because one particular team changed so much that you have to contort the definitions and the terms and the words to like fit with what they're doing. You aren't supposed to like exclusives. They're a technique used by the seller to remove your choice. It's not a favor. Lola only points out the anecdotal good side effect. It's strong-arming you. Huh? You aren't supposed to like exclusives. They're a technique used by the seller to remove your choice. It's not a favor. I'm not saying it's a favor to us. I'm saying that it's a symbiotic relationship. Like they have to make the game excellent because why else do you care? Imagine like the state that multi-plat games come out in. Imagine if exclusives launched like that. Imagine if Spider-Man 2 launched in the state of Jedi Survivor. What would have happened? Happy holidays. Yo, Mr. Grimm with the 5-bomb. Happy holidays to you as well. We're 6 away from me. Oh, and you guys remember. Thank you so much, sir. Exclusives don't exist. What about patents? I think in general, it's not that they say exclusives don't exist. They act like nobody's doing them anymore, or they don't really matter, or they don't help the consumer or something like that. That wasn't for you, sorry. But the point I'm making is that you wouldn't pay $450 for a graphing calculator to play Nintendo games if you had any choice at all. Yeah, but I think there are other indirect benefits. Like, Switch 1 was a benefit to the consumer. Like a gaming company bringing something new to the market where you can game on the go, that was a benefit to the consumer. It created an impact. And now we have the Switch 2, which is, I think, one of the best handhelds in the market. For the price, if you like the kind of games that they ship and the kind of games that run well on that device, like obviously you're not playing Cyberpunk on it and having a great experience, but that for $450, it is a great handheld. It's gonna suit my needs really well the next time I travel and would like to play some games on a plane, right? I won't even engage with people in a debate about exclusives don't matter. Exclusives have always mattered and have proven that consoles with the best exclusives tend to do far better in sales. Eugene says, I've always enjoyed the idea that I can access something that not everyone can, but that's just me. Yeah, to me, I was never a fan of exclusivity in the realm of like, hey, we all play Destiny, but you can't get these guns or these missions. I hate that. I was critical of it when Hogwarts did it. I can't stand that. You want to enter into a relationship with the developer, shoulder publishing costs or marketing costs, and then you get the game early or 6 months or a year or whatever, I don't mind that at all. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. I don't mind if you make the game for one platform first. People do this on Steam all of the time. It happened with Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. They made the game on Steam, used early access. It's one of the best Survivor games out there. If you like Vampire Survivors and you haven't played Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, you're missing, I think, S-tier Survivor game. It's fantastic. Well, they were able to do that because they built for PC first. They used early access. They garnered response, feedback, criticism, did a bunch of updates. Now it's in 1.0, and they were able to then make a version for Xbox. They would like to make a version for PlayStation. They explained why they're not able to do that, because it complicates the development. I'm in full support of that. The interesting thing about the exclusives debate, you will never get them to talk straight-faced about Steam and a game like Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. You'll never get them to. Never. Oh, that's different. That's different. How is it different? How? Sure, Deep Rock Galactic wasn't owned by Valve. They weren't paid by Valve to build the game there first, but it demonstrates the principle very clearly. They limited scope of the project, made something great. They were in an environment with early access so they could have agility for updates and get a game into a great state for 1.0. And now they've got a product that's a whole lot easier at this stage, not back here, at this stage, whole lot easier to bring that to other platforms. And Xbox is more adjacent because of the infrastructure and the architecture. It's more adjacent to PC, so they're able to bring it to Xbox faster. So I'm telling you, like, that's why these debates, to me, they just get so exhausting, because you get lost in the woods of bad faith. It's like nobody's coming from a consistent definition. Like, I've never changed my definition. You go back, I always considered Starfield a strong exclusive for Xbox. I never once said, oh, it's not an exclusive because it's on PC. I never said that, never made that argument. I always said, that's a strong exclusive for Xbox. It was a big win for them. It took over the news cycles. It's all anybody was talking about. It was that game. It's all anybody was talking about was Starfield. It was the most talked about game the year that it came out. That's a win for your brand. Now, it's obviously not a win for your brand when the game is in a terrible state, but, you know, and it has such terrible reviews. However, I always referred to it as exclusive. I've not once had to change or shift goalposts on this. I'm like, that's an exclusive. It is. Like, South of Midnight was an exclusive. I mean, it'll eventually be on PlayStation and Nintendo. And at that point, it's a multi-plat, but it was still a value point for Game Pass this year. It was a value point for the brand. Why? That was the only place you could get it, was Xbox and PC. So I'll want to pull up when I was looking for Starfield content. It's been so long. Yeah, we I got a lot of flack for defending Starfield before it came out, because I was massively anticipating the game. It was one of my most anticipated games. I was a huge, you know, Starfield fan. I was like in their corner. I thought, oh, this is going to be great, because I really enjoyed Fallout 4. I have like, I don't even know, like 111 hours or something like that in Fallout 4. You know, and I love Skyrim. And there's clips of me on this channel like defending Starfield before it came out. But if you don't hold the party line and you don't defend the game to the bitter end, well, then you're an Xbox hating pony. And it's like, but I was in the game's corner. I was cheering for it. Like, I've said this before. I said this about Yote. You know, I was a huge fan of the game, anticipating the game, but I also said I'll be the first to criticize it if they do things I don't like. I will be the first to be heavily critical if they misstep and they do stuff with the game that I don't like. I was anticipating Black Myth Wukong. I did that with Black Myth. I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I was massively anticipating Silksong, and I felt like the way they handled benches and runbacks was archaic and out of step, and it led to an overemphasis of punishment. Not difficulty, but an overemphasis of punishment, because those are different categories. And to me, that makes me more critical. I'm going to be immediately more critical of something that I'm anticipating. If I'm not anticipating something and I like have a predisposition to not like it, I didn't waste a single breath talking about Street Fighter 6. Like, I didn't make any content about that. I didn't even make any content about Call of Duty getting beat by Battlefield because I just don't really pay attention to Call of Duty anymore. I just don't care. As soon as they released trailer with gameplay, I was excited to go back to the numbers, Mason. With the initial reveal trailer of Black Ops 7 had me pumped because I still think Black Ops 1 is the best story they've ever told. I loved that turn, the numbers, Mason, and then the end. I loved it. And I thought, well, they're going to go back and do a retread of that story. That's a great story. And then they finally showed gameplay, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck this is, but I'm not interested. No liftoff or landing on Starfield really damaged immersion, for me at least. Yeah, see, that didn't bother me in the least. I remember when that was something people were really critical of before Starfield came out, and I defended it. I was like, I don't think we need that in this game. This game is not meant to be No Man's Sky. My criticism of the game doesn't even touch on that. That doesn't bother me in the least. So I can't take off and land. That wouldn't make that game any better, I'll tell you that much. How was South of Midnight an exclusive when it landed on PC day one? Because when a PlayStation game comes to PC years later, it's considered to be a multi-platform game. I consider an exclusive one that is limited in its reach from the beginning. So if South of Midnight comes out and it's exclusive to Xbox and PC, I can't play it on PlayStation and I can't play it on Nintendo. That to me is an exclusive. I considered Starfield an exclusive when it came out. I considered Redfall an exclusive when it came out. Hi-Fi Rush. To me, it didn't matter that they were putting their games on PC. It was an adjacent additive move. It was a market that was not in direct competition with consoles. And the big head-to-head competition was always between PlayStation and Xbox. And if I have to go to Xbox to play South of Midnight, or PC, but I can't play it on PlayStation, I've always felt like that's an exclusive. You're limiting the reach of the game for the purposes of your brand or whatever deals you've got, and it's not coming over here to this brand for whatever reason, whatever your reasons are. That's fine. That's all legitimate. For me personally, that's an exclusive. We never started saying, well, Ghost of Yotei is not exclusive. Why? Well, because eventually it'll come to PC. Oh, okay. So we live in an ethereal plane where time doesn't exist? Like, that doesn't make any frickin' sense at all. So we don't really exist in time then. Because the only place you can play Yotei right now is PlayStation. Same with Death Stranding 2. So to me, it's like, those to me are exclusives just as much as Starfield was an exclusive. Now, yeah, if you want to get pedantic and specific and say, well, those are console exclusives, oh, okay, that's fine. We can be more specific. I think that's fair. But to me, that wasn't necessary until people started redefining things. This conversation is literally part of this year. The upset of the year for many people was they felt like their brand betrayed them. I saw a lot of angry Xbox fans on Twitter this year. You mean you don't live in an ethereal plane where time doesn't exist? I'm not ready for non-linear time. I'm sorry. I'm going to say in linear time and have exclusives, for sure. The actual definition of exclusive doesn't mean to solely belong to one. Multiple people or companies can own or have something that's exclusive to them and inclusive to others. GT7's an exclusive. Astrobot is also. Demon Souls. Well, right. I mean, the point that usually is being made is that they'll say you almost don't have exclusives anymore. Like, the best, most good faith argument about this is the person who says, I have spent a couple $1,000s on my PC. I'm happy waiting to play a better version of that game. Right? Better is subjective, but to them it's better. Okay? They're like, I can turn up res, I can turn up lighting, whatever. They build a rig that's capable of like playing Death Stranding 2 at, higher levels of fidelity compared to the Pro. They're like, well, I can do more than you can. Okay. That's fine. That's customer preference. That's a value hierarchy that makes sense to me. It totally makes sense to me. It's like, you know what? You got to have your 120. You got to have your path racing. Whatever it is, you've created a rig. You have a value system, right? 120 FPS is objectively better. It's not objectively better. That's subjective because somebody might think that they don't like the way that it looks. They might not notice the way that it looks. They might not care. That's a value that is subjective to the user. So it's not objectively better. It isn't. That's beside the point. The point is, to you, it matters. That's the point. Trying to argue objectivity here is a wasted effort because somebody might think, nope, doesn't matter to me. Nope, don't think it looks better. It's subjective to the user. So somebody that's perfectly happy with 60 is going to be, well, I don't, they don't agree or whatever because it's all about the perception, like Zubair is saying. Like, it's impossible to make something like this subjective because it's all down to the perception of the viewer and the gamer as well as their own value system. The thing is, though, is that if somebody makes that line of thinking, okay, if they say, I've spent all this money, I'm happy waiting for Ghosts of Yotei and Death Stranding 2, that's fine. That's totally fine. The problem is when they say, you don't really have exclusives. There's no real reason to own a PlayStation. Okay, there's no reason for you to own a PlayStation. Right? There's no reason for you. You lack the reason. You lack the demand, the desire. You're like, nope, I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy waiting. Okay? There's no reason for you. But they go beyond that and they say, this is where I get like frustrated and hung up on it. Instead of just saying, well, for me, I'm happy to wait. Okay, that's fine. But saying, well, you don't really have exclusives anymore. Exclusives are going away. I'll be able to play your games eventually. Like, that's a sentence that contradicts itself. It doesn't even make any sense. It's like, what do you mean eventually? If there aren't exclusives anymore, then you'd be able to play them right now, would you not? Like, the interesting thing is they want rigidity without actually rigidity. That's what's interesting to me. You see, like, they're like, no, we're going to be rigid with the definition of exclusive. If it ever comes off of PlayStation, it's not an exclusive. Oh, well, let's be rigid then. Can you play it right now? No, I can't. Well, then if we're going to be rigid with the definition, it's an exclusive because you can't play it right now. Do you see? It's like they're demanding rigidity. It's like, well, no. If it's ever on more than one platform, it's not an exclusive. But currently it's not, which means it is then. So like it's this, it's I don't even know what to call it. It's a convenient, inconsistent definition that allows them to be critical of a brand. And if you point any of this out and you make any of these arguments, you'll just get name called. You'll just be told that you're a shilling grifting pony, which is the absence of an argument. You're just name calling. You're just admitting you don't have a retort. That's why I said, like, if I steel man the argument, I can totally see somebody say, I don't see the point in buying a PlayStation. I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy to wait. That's a completely respectable, reasonable, logical position. It's not rooted in redefined terms. It's not rooted in bad faith. The interesting thing is, too, in this discussion is they'll constantly talk about, like, oh, you console warriors. And it's like, why are you spending so much time warring against a console then? Like, if you think console warring is stupid, why do you spend so much time doing it? You're spending an awful lot of time being critical of PlayStation, being critical of people who like PlayStation, being critical of anything, if PlayStation does something, you're critical of it. If PlayStation makes a change or a shift, you exaggerate it, misrepresent it, whatever. It's just interesting to me. It's like, you seem like a fish that doesn't know that it's wet. Like, you're claiming that console warring is stupid while actively, constantly wailing on a console brand. Like, that seems like you actually are the bigger perpetrator within the console war, that there really isn't even a console war anymore. You have three completely distinct brands with three completely distinct value offers. There is no more head-to-head. There is no more AT&T versus Verizon, where, like, you're comparing their phones and their subscriptions. Like, it's almost identical, right? We don't have that head-to-head anymore. The brands are far too distinct. Like, this is the other reason it frustrates me, is, like, just give the consumer the accurate information. That's all you got to do. Just give them the accurate information so the consumer can make a well-informed decision. Why do you got to dress everything up with things that feel like they're misleading or made in bad faith? Why can't you just give the people the accurate information? Like, yeah, this is what the Nintendo Switch 2 offers. You got to be leery. There's pros and cons to Nintendo right now. Oh, buddy, the way they're handling, like, lending games and moving games around, and the key card thing, and their patenting thing that they're doing with Pokemon, and thank goodness that doesn't seem like it's going to hold up. I didn't seem like it was going to hold up. It was a stupid patent to begin with, and they're overly litigious, but let people know, yep, that's what you deal with over there. PlayStation, here's what you deal with on PlayStation. Here's what they offer. Here's the pros and here's the cons. Here's what Xbox offers. You know, here's why having a really good gaming rig is a really great value option, because there's so many great deals and sales and games that you can't get anywhere else. Steam has an ocean of indie titles and AA titles that you can't get anywhere else. I've never understood the insistence on misrepresenting everything that's going on, and then anybody that attempts to is then, you know, maligned and described as like a grifter or a liar. Like, these are just the terms people use now. It's like, well, okay. I mean, it just seems to me that we have three clear, distinct players in the market that don't compete anymore, like, at all. Why? What's the harm in just telling people what they all offer? They'll say Square Enix isn't doing exclusives anymore, and then I'm like, so they were doing exclusives that went to PC, right? And that's exactly why it's so. That's exactly why it's difficult to have the debate, because you don't know what the terms are. You don't. If any time you sit down and watch like a really good debate, you watch like two, you know, philosophers debate, or, you know, you watch like, you know, like an atheist debate, you know, a priest or something, or an imam or a pastor, you know, you watch an atheist debate a theologian. The reason those debates are so entertaining is because they don't waste a bunch of time with this nonsense of defining terms. Like, if you tuned into a debate and they spent the entire time debating about whether or not this is how we define morality, you'd be like, this is incredibly boring. Like, what the frick? They didn't even do anything. They just spent the entire time claiming their definition was the definition, and then there's no actual debate. That's what's happened in these discussions, is everything has been redefined so that it's difficult to even know which way's up. It's like, well, wait, so what's exclusive going to mean next year? Right? What's it going to mean next year? What's the way we're going to define that? Because now it's completely different. We're 5 years into this gen, and it doesn't mean what it meant 5 years ago. I don't know if this was ever pointed out to Lono, but you apparently can talk with a jaw fracture too, in fact. Lono was wrong about that. You can't talk with a jaw fracture? Huh? Have I been watching Stranger Things? I have, but I'm not going to talk about it here. Yes, I have been. I've been enjoying it, but we're not going to talk about it here. Jake Paul fight? No, you can talk with a... Yeah, you can talk with a broken jaw. Did I say you can't? I might have been joking around. I know you can talk with a broken jaw. I've known people to talk with broken jaws. I have definitely seen an atheist versus theist debate. It was all definitions. It was obnoxious. Yeah, they never actually get to the showmanship of the debate. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you never actually get to the meat of it. You never actually get to the back and forth, or the showmanship of rebuttal and argumentation. It's all, well, this is how we define it. This is how we've defined it. And it's like, okay, we're not getting anywhere here. He deserves it. I mean, that's what happens when you fight somebody that's not pulling their punches. It's remarkable. It's remarkable what happened. A Kingdom Come Deliverance remaster is reportedly coming to current-gen consoles in February. That's probably a good call. That game has aged very, very well. When Madam played Kingdom Come Deliverance on the PC those couple of times for you guys, I thought that was I could see why people loved the game. Yeah, I could 100% see why people loved the game. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of quality here. There's a lot of, love and passion that they poured into it. On this subject, I think you are well within your right to be like, what was the upset of the year? What was the upset of 2025? I think it's completely fair for Xbox fans to feel like, yeah, this was kind of the end. I've had numerous people in our Discord comment section in this chat basically say, I moved. I moved to PC. I had a lot of people say I moved to PC. I had a lot of people say, yeah, I moved to PlayStation this year. So I think that's definitely one of the things that happened this year that I think many people were not expecting. Now, some of us were expecting it. Some of us were expecting Expedition 33 to sweep the Game Awards. What was the most shocking to me about that sweep is how many people were like, they couldn't believe that it happened. They literally felt like Expedition 33 kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, this has been brewing all year. What do you mean? What? Huh? It's like Battlefield 6 versus Black Ops 7. It's like, how could you not see this coming? How could you not see this coming? But for many people, it was like this huge upset. It was like, it was clear that Call of Duty was headed to trouble. Yeah, Ark Raiders was a big, in many people, like a big upset. It comes in and completely disrupts the established order and shows that, you know what? You don't have to be the big kid on the block, I didn't think it was that great. I don't know. Well, the thing about a video game sweeping the Game Awards and getting a ton of acclaim and praise, that doesn't mean that everybody will love it and like it. I mean, the same thing happened with Elden Ring. There were people that just didn't get it. They're like, why did this game crush? Like, they didn't like it. They couldn't get into it. Polarin with 33 months. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Lono and fam. Maybe back in North America this year. Should make watching a bit easier. Cheers, mate. Well, thank you, Polarin. Let me add you to the total. We're exactly a 5-bomb away from 525. We've changed the way this works, guys. If you are at Member Plus and above, we start Monday with a jump start. So consider upgrading. It helps us get closer to the goal every week. Every week, you're in the total. It's not just once a week anymore. You're always in there bumping the line, as it were. I love the couple of videos of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 fans playing Expedition 33 for the first time and finding out how good it is. Well, that's the other part of this. Like, there were a lot of people that were skeptical, naysaying. They're like, no way, can't believe this happened. And then they played it and they're like, oh no, yeah, this game is kind of fire. Like, I've seen multiple videos in my feed about that. And a 5-bomb comes in from Siege. Thank you so much. That gets us to 525. Polarin says, I set that up intentionally. Well, thank you. Let me, I owe you guys a member. You didn't set it up intentionally. Well, you did. We certainly are going to need a bit of a member train here if we're going to hit the goal this week. And if we get to 1,000 member plus, we start automatically meeting the goal on Monday, and we can work towards stretch goals. Yeah, the whole idea is you guys can visualize like what Zubair just said. Like, the more people jump in and pick up their own membership, we're just starting the week ahead. Like, if this right now said 600 at member plus and above, you'd have started this week at 600. We would have only needed 400. So the goal shrinks, basically. The goal shrinks if more people are at member plus and above. We've spent a couple years trying to figure out a way to give more. So, like, you're like, hey, it's worth it. It's worth it to be at member plus. There's green room. There's extra streams. There's Madam streams. There's been a pretty concerted effort to call what I do e-begging. I think what we offer is value. I will do extra streams. I will do extra content. Everybody does it on the platform. That is a very, very common thing. We do morning coffee, we do green room, and we do Friday night streams. If that value doesn't land on you, that's totally fair. But we put that value before the audience to say, hey, if you really like what we do here, that's what keeps this thing going. Like, if you like the show, you want the show to stick around, that's how shows like this live. That's just the nature of it. Bring on Monday, green room back to YouTube. This is correct. Why is Xbox Play Anywhere a joke? Who said it was a joke? Oh, hang on. Happy says this. I've been with Xbox since the beginning. I moved to PC before major price hikes. Oh, hikes, I think he meant to say, on hardware landed. I still play Xbox for a few games. I'm not going to rebuy games, and Xbox Play Anywhere is a joke. Oh, I mean, he might be saying Xbox Play Anywhere is a joke. Maybe he feels that the list isn't long enough or something, like not enough games are included, so he's feeling like he has to rebuy games. I'm assuming that's what he means, was that like when he switched to PC, he doesn't feel like that is as strong of a value point as maybe that they've claimed that it is. So Sneaky Wolf comes in with a 5 bomb, and that sets up, we are now 20. We're 20 away from 550. We're going to need a bit of a member train. We needed to be at 600 yesterday, so we're a little behind on pace. Let's bring in the New Year strong here. Anywhere has a big asterisk on it. What you need to do, Lono, is adopt some skinny dog with a sad story and tell people you need money for dog food. Lean into the grifting. What are they going to do? Call you a grifter? We're going to call you an e-beggar even harder. It's remarkable. That's a strategy. We'll have to implement that next year. We'll have to implement that next year. Thank you to everybody who has watched the Arc Raiders PvE lobbies video. That thing is holy cow, that thing is going. It won't quit. All the good games are not on the list. Call the dog Monaco and tug at the heartstrings. That's right. A VIP from Metal Matt. Here's money for your scrawny stray dog, Lono. Thank you so much. Let me add you to the total. Metal Matt. The mental image of an old beagle sitting in the chair next to you bringing me such joy. Listen, my daughter has been begging for a dog for a long, long time. I mean, you guys know she's got her own song on the channel called I Need a Dog. And that would not go over very well. I come home with a sickly looking thing on its deathbed. East00 says Xbox Play Anywhere is an actual joke. Windows versions of PC games run worse. They get slower updates than Steam versions. xCloud had the most lag and inferior visuals. I'm curious how they're going to handle that in the future. That's not the first time I've seen somebody, be critical of that. I believe there were articles that Jez Corden wrote, and he was critical of the Xbox shop, the Xbox platform on PC. Has been pretty bad, and in the case of what you're saying, it doesn't really seem to be, if you go and find, as an example, I'll find reviews in the Xbox store, And I'm like, man, this game's scoring lower on Xbox for some reason. Without fail, you'll start scrolling through the reviews, and all the console reviews will be fine. All the console reviews will be fine. You get to the ones that are PC, and they're all the 1 star. Crashes, problems, missing features, what have you. It's really interesting. Like, without fail, if I find a game on Xbox's review, like the user reviews, that are noticeably lower, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I've not heard anything. Why is the Xbox score lower? Without fail, all the 1 star reviews are PC. It's like they're people that actually take the time to, go through and use the app or use the Xbox application on their PC. Like, they hate it. I mean, I used it for a handful of games over the years, and I never had any issues. I used it for Revenge of the Savage Planet. I played that with Hilly, and there was one other one we played, and I don't feel like we ever had any trouble with it. I feel like it ran fine, but that's, 2 games out of, hundreds a year that could potentially have issues. I'm not saying hundreds have issues. I'm saying could potentially have issues. Was the PC version of Xbox games different from Steam because the Xbox versions? I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. Yeah. Investor, you don't need to ask every individual person if they've hit the like button yet. We are 15 likes away from 200, so thank you guys so much for everybody who has hit the like button today. I appreciate it so much. I've watched multiple videos of people in the gaming community filming themselves play xCloud with their hands in view. You clearly can see lag between button presses and the actual movement. I mean, there's always going to be elements of latency when you're playing something through the cloud. I don't think that's like a big revelation. I've not heard that like xCloud is like bad in that department. I've actually heard it's quite good as long as your internet's fast. I did see an interesting thread that I want to test out, and the guy was saying that he had cleared out all of his messages, all of his old messages on his Xbox Series X. I believe it was a Series X. He cleared out all his old messages. He cleared out friends list. He did a bunch of things that made his Xbox run way faster. And it got me thinking, I've always felt like my Series X runs poorly. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it just won't respond. Downloads will freeze and updates will freeze. And I'm like, what is this? Why is it running like this? And this guy was saying like the entire box ran faster, smoother, quicker. Even his games ran better when he was like going through and making these changes. I don't know if I saved the tweet or not. I don't know if I liked it so that I would have like I should have bookmarked it. Hang on. Let me see. I feel like I hit the like button on it. No, I didn't. I lost it. Somebody put it in. I swear somebody put it in the Discord. Loads of the dashboard server side. I don't know if a game would run faster though. He was saying he felt like his games were running better. I was like, this sounds insane to me. I just changed my LAN cables to Cat 8. Change your cables to Cat 8 for LAN. Is storing messages in RAM all the time? I don't know. Can you guys find me that tweet? Xbox user deletes old messages. Halo ran better. Let's see if we can find it this way. Here we go. Yeah. Here it is. This is on Reddit in the Halo Infinite subreddit. For months now, I started to randomly get a very odd glitch when I played Halo that made my game seem like it was running in turbo mode. It was weird, and we couldn't pinpoint what was happening. About 10 days ago, my Xbox account started to glitch and not receive messages anymore. I tried a hard restart from my box, clear cache, but nothing seemed to fix it. So I decided to just completely wipe my message backlog for 6 to 7 years. For whatever reason, clearing my messages made the UI of my Xbox Series X run at supersonic speed compared to before, and also noticeably made the games run better. This was literally seen and proven in real time live on stream. That got me thinking, what else could I remove from my account that maybe could be slowing it down? So I removed my Discord connection. Then also made me wonder, what if I deleted my 1,000 plus friends on my account? I know for a fact I've got a ton of friends on my Xbox account, like an absurd amount. Well, I have the answer. I did that tonight on stream, and it was the most bizarre thing. It was the most bizarre thing that I've ever witnessed. Not only did it make my UI run even faster again, but more importantly, it actually completely changed the way my inputs were counting on Halo, how the aim felt, how smooth the game was. My shots were registering faster than before. In every Halo game on Master Chief Collection, not just one, viewers were saying it looked like a completely different game that I was playing. So it got us thinking again. How could removing 1,000 plus friends be affecting how the game is registering inputs? Well, the answer may be that your account info is tied to how inputs register to the server. The less data you have to carry, the better, since it will be faster. I constantly started feeling the difference compared to when I was playing hours just before, all because I deleted my friends. My zoom functions were feeling completely different and faster, especially with the light rifle in Halo 4. Inputs were instantly registering faster than ever before, and there was no pause in the inputs when a lot were pressed. I don't know what this all means, but that's a major design flaw and a major issue if your account is tied to how good the game feels, which also means, could your account be affecting how the games feel on PC? Since this is not a hardware-based issue, and it's how your account connects to the servers. Also, after I deleted all my friends, I was able to have the start menu of Master Chief Collection instantly pop up and exit faster than ever before during gameplay, when normally there's a big pause of lag. So, somehow, maybe the achievement data of friends is also weighing it down in-game. The turbo glitch that I previously mentioned does not happen anymore either since clearing my account info. Sounds like confirmation bias. I think you're using that term incorrectly. He's literally going in and removing things, and the system's behaving more quickly. That's not confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you already think something and then you go and find something that agrees with you, or you find evidence that agrees with you. He didn't say, "Oh, I think this is happening." He just did it and noticed, what the frick? Why is it all running faster now? The PlayStation UI is noticeably faster when you keep your friends under 100. I'm tempted to do the same thing on PlayStation. I have a ridiculous amount of friends on both platforms from my Destiny days. The number of friends I have is absurd. Delete your friends to game better. This is old knowledge. I mean, he did everything. He deleted his friends, he deleted his messages, and it all made a difference. Not the game, but the UI. Everything. Maybe this is why I never complain about performance. I have 5 friends. And I have messaging disabled. I'm telling you, the last couple times I've tried to use my Series X and get my daughter all ready to go for Fortnite, I'm not kidding you. It literally feels like there's something wrong with the device. And remember when I told people that quick resume commonly didn't work for me and would break, and they're like, "You're lying." No, I'm not, and maybe that's why. I have a disproportionately higher friends list total than the average user because of 5 years of streaming Destiny. 3 to 4 of those years, I was almost always on the Xbox and not on PlayStation. So for the majority of my life, I'm just adding friends. Boom, 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 boom. My friends list is ridiculous, right? We had that LFG group that we made. Not an LFG group, I forget what it was called. You could make a community on Xbox. It was a huge group, right, for Destiny. Maybe that's why I was consistently having issues with quick resume. It's not the feature that's broken. It's that if you have too many friends or too many stored messages or whatever, it makes things like that not run well. To this day, people think that I was just making that up. I was like, brother, I almost never can get quick resume to work right. And they're like, yeah, it won't work in a game like Fortnite. I was like, I tried to use it a month ago. My daughter tried to use it for... What's the game with the two Yarny characters? Frick. What's that game called? Oh my gosh. Unraveled. Unravel, I should say. Unravel 2. It didn't work. I was like, that's a light, little, lean game. What I mean is it's not definitive proof. He deleted his friends and he feels performance is better. I'm just suggesting It might be something else, and you need more evidence. He's probably right. It's evidence of something. If he's like, yeah, it's noticeably faster after I do this. Like, that's evidence of something. It can't just be a coincidence. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can hop back into Cyberpunk in 2 seconds after not touching it for weeks. It consistently wouldn't work for me. It would pull the game up and the game would be frozen, or it would go to pull the game up. I literally have had it pull up and say, it'll literally say that it can't quick resume or something. It's called anecdotal, not confirmation bias. I don't even know if anecdotal is the right word. Anecdotal would be like him saying, hey, I think this works. Here's somebody who says it works. He literally just did it and is reporting what happened. The only thing I doubt is games running better. Halo in particular could be, though, because of the social integration. Do you remember, I believe it was the Division 1. I believe it was the Division 1 where if you had a really big friends list, this stuff just didn't work in the game. You'd go to do something and it wouldn't work, or it would freeze. Do you guys remember this? And they said if you got a really big friends list, it glitches because the social integration into the Division. Oh, I know what it was. It was a hitching. There was a hitch that would happen in the Division 1. And what it was doing was it was trying to make sure your friends list was like refreshed. And it was like basically pinging it. And if your friends list was really, really big, it would absolutely break. It would be like, it would be like, huh? What is this? And it would go to check it, and it would make the whole game like snag. And I think it was like, it was at intervals. Like you could literally sense it happening. Like at certain intervals, you'd be like, what the frick is going on? But in the actual game, yes, Eugene, this happened in the Division. A game that has social, it's literally in the game. You can pull open like a list of all your friends or people playing. Well, that's, the game is pinging, pulling, doing something from your account, from your friends list. So it completely stands to reason that if you've got a friends list that's too big, it's going to have an impact. Because the game is trying to ping that list, this big, fat, huge thing. It's trying to go grab it. And if you have 50 friends and I have 700, we're going to probably have vastly different experiences because the game is attempting to do something in the background, in the back end, that is clearly having a problem. That's the EA friends list thing, not the Xbox friends. Right, but I'm saying any game that features like a social hub where it's literally going in and it's grabbing your friends list so that you can see your friends list, that is not a seamless process. It's got to go and basically ping your profile, pull all the data down. Not only does it have to pull all the data down, it has to actively maintain who's playing and who's not. It's got to actively maintain, like, did they boot up the game 5 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago? We've all been there. You open up the game and it says, oh, your friend is playing, they're in a match. Your friend is doing this. Your friend is in the lobby. Your friend is in the menu. The only way it knows that is it's actively pinging your friends list and pulling that data down to then display, yeah, this is what your friend's doing in such and such a game. So the social what would you even call that? The social element of the game could be causing the issue. Is Bob online? Is Steve online? Is Larry online? Is Cletus online? Like, yeah, how often is it pinging in the background? If it's only pinging when you pull up in the menu, you would pull up in the menu, it would hang for a second, and then it would refresh the list and you'd be able to see. If you pull open your social friend list in these games and you can instantly see what they're doing, you could conceivably be having a laggier, harder, weirder time because the game's like actively in the background refreshing a 300 friends list versus one that, the average person probably has 50, maybe 100 people on their friends list. If you're beyond 100, I would say that could be abnormal. It's on server side, not player side, most likely. But the game itself is pinging and pulling the information at some point. That would make the issue game specific. Exactly. That's why in the Division, when they finally figured it out, a bunch of us went and cleared our friends lists and shrunk them down, and the problem went away. Because the Division was doing that. Like in the background, it's just sitting there, oh, what are your friends doing? So if you want to open up your friends list and send an invite, here's what they're doing. I don't know. I'd have to imagine that it wouldn't want your friends list to lag when you opened it. They would keep checking in the background so that the menu is fast, which inadvertently creates a worse problem if it's creating lag and problems and latency within the game itself. The game pulls it from the server, not from the player, unless the game is P2P based. When I'm saying pull it from your profile, I think you might not be. I'm not saying it's pulling it from you. What you're dealing with is a game while you are actively playing. It is going out and pulling down data. Even small amounts of data can cause a disruption. I mean, think about what a packet loss or a hitch or a ping fluctuation, what does it do to your game? Think about what that does to your game. Now imagine the game is consistently going, hey, Vink, what's your 380 people on your friends list doing? What's the 380 people on your friends list doing? What's the 380 people on your friends list doing? And you're like, stop it. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. You don't need to do that while I'm playing. When I'm in the lobby, sure. When I open up the friends list, sure. When I'm playing, no, you don't need to do that. Finally, a benefit to having no friends. There you go. There's a video here. Having a massive friends list and tons of messages can slow down your PS5 or your Xbox, not necessarily due to hardware limits, but because the console's UI and games constantly process this data, causing UI lag, freezing, and gameplay issues, especially with large friends lists, hundreds of thousands, and constant message spam. Users report significant performance boost, faster UI, smoother aim in games like Halo after pruning their friends list and clearing their messages. There's a video right here. This video explains how your PS5 account and network can affect your game performance. Like, I wonder if could that be why not everybody was reporting problems in, what was the game Madam and I were playing? RoboQuest. We would get really, really far into the game. We would get into one of the more complex levels, and she would lose her connection to me. Now, that's her losing a connection to me. She doesn't have some big friends list and a bunch of messages, but I do. I don't see how that would affect UI, though, especially if you're not in a game. Well, because so it's like it's the UI is no different than the UI in Windows, okay? The operating system and the UI are holding hands. And if you know for a fact that if your computer is doing some heavy lifting in the background and you go to click on something, it takes a minute for like, oh, there comes the start menu, right? So you think about the operating system of the PlayStation. If it's sitting there actively making sure your friends list is refreshed and people are moving and people are doing different things so that when you open up your friends list, you're like, oh, Dave is playing Returnal and Steve is playing Battlefield and Susan is playing, Arc Raiders. All that's right there, available instantaneous. Well, that's just doing that in the background. It's actively doing that to a larger piece of data than somebody who's got like 10 friends. Now, we're not talking about lag where like the whole system freezes and you're like, what's wrong with my PlayStation? We're talking about like little minuscule hitches where you click on something, you're like, hello? Oh, and you're like, oh, there it is. Like little miniature little blips and hitches and snags. That starts to add up, right? Where you're like, what the heck's going on? My PlayStation, every once in a while, I'm like, what's wrong with my PS5? Like it'll boot up and mine takes significantly longer to get into the main menu than my wife's. We both have a PS5 Pro. My profile and her profile We click on it. She gets into her dashboard faster than I do. Never seen an impact on games, though. Again, it would be game-to-game specific, Eugene. He's specifically talking about the Halo Master Chief Collection. There could be a social menu overlay inside of that game that has a direct impact on game performance, because if it's constantly pinging, as it was in the Division 1, I think I've clearly demonstrated how it affected another game in a very similar way, and the cause was big friends list. It was literally only the Division thing, the Division hitch. The reason they narrowed it down to big friends list, it was only affecting streamers, because streamers are the ones with these big, huge friends lists. They're like, yeah, come and play, add, come and play, add, come and play, add. And then like a month later, your friends list is absurd. I got to the point where I couldn't even receive a friend request. I couldn't even receive a friend request, right? So if Master Chief Collection is suffering from a similar problem that Division 1 did, that could be an easy fix to just go in and say, hey, don't ping and refresh the friends list when somebody's actively playing. That needs to go on pause. Once they're in the lobby, once they're in the main menu, once they pull up the friends list, go ahead. But when they're playing, you don't do that. It doesn't, they don't, I don't need you doing that when I'm actively like shooting at another player or something. How many friends do you have added? Let's see. Can you see your friends list like on PlayStation.com? Like, can you do that? Let's see here. Well played. The stream is going to start stuttering. It is. Family management, profile. My avatar. All. So they've changed profile picture and avatar now. I kind of wondered why that happened. I started loading up games and I saw Spider-Man instead of my picture that I've selected, which is the Reforge Gaming joystick. Yeah, they don't seem to let you use your own, it seems. Anyways, let me close out of that. Let's see. Privacy settings, family management, authorized apps. Here we go. Unlink. Yes. I don't even know what this is. Discord. Yeah, I'm going to unlink Discord. I don't need Discord linked. It just tells you guys what I'm playing. That's not that important. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can manage your friends list on the website. It doesn't look like you can. I don't know where you would go to do it. Family management, that's not going to be it. No. It doesn't seem like there's a way. Manage PlayStation friend list on website, ? Yes, you can manage your PlayStation friend list on a website by signing into your PlayStation account on a web browser and accessing your profile. Go to PlayStation.com, sign in, navigate to the profile or messages area, appear after login. Okay, I don't seem... You can in the app. Okay, manage from your app. I've got it right here. I'm actually curious how big my friends list is now. Let's see here. Boom. I have 79 requests. I have over 99 people that are... I wish there was a way... Can you decline all? There doesn't seem to be a way to decline all. You used to. It's not in the app. I wonder if there's like... You might just have to take the time to go through and like literally take your friends list to the threshing floor. Because the app doesn't seem to have like a decline all or remove all. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm clearing out the request right now. You guys can always, anytime we do a family game, a community game night or something like that, if you need to send a new one, you can. I was one of those friend requests. Yo, a member plus from QBZ. Thanks for 40 months, my man. Getting us to 532 on the week. You guys at member plus and above jump started the week with 443. We added those on Monday. And so thank you to everybody who did that. Oh, that one I clicked on because they sent like a long message. By the way, I'm the platinum for Returnal is stupid, and it literally is showing me why I don't go for platinums. So I thought, I was just curious. I was like, let me just see how close I am to this platinum. And so I went to the biomes where I was missing some of the glyphs. And I am now missing one. I'm at 99%. And the one that I'm missing is literally one that there are videos on how to farm for it because its spawn rate is so terrible. Got to reload those rooms. Yeah, the video that these guys had on Reddit, you literally run biome 2 backwards. You run through biome 1, go to biome 2, run biome 2 backwards, and if the room spawns, you just go get it. Like, you don't fight anything, you just run past everything. I'm like, this is why I don't go for platinums. This is asinine. This is stupid. Like, having a platinum linked to RNG is quite literally why I don't go for them. So, I don't think I'm going to go for it. Because the other thing I need is I need a data cube from biome 3 that's never spawned for me. So I don't think that's for the platinum. That's just for something else. That's for, I don't even know what that's called. Yeah, I have to manually remove. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can you have to manually remove people. I just cleared out all of the requests. There doesn't seem to be a fast way to clear your friends list. Oh. Worth a few attempts. Yeah, just going for the glyph, I might go for it. Just the glyph. The cube that's never spawned for me in biome 3, I think that's for something separate. I don't think you need that for the platinum. That's for just like I don't think it's a trophy. It says I'm only missing 2 trophies, the platinum and the one for this glyph. Can you wipe your PlayStation friend list? You can wipe it, but there's no wipe all button. You must manually remove each friend. The quickest way, you go to the profile, click remove his friend for each person. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way to do it quickly. That's unfortunate. Platinums aren't stupid, but Returnals definitely is. I mean, this can't be the only one that's like this. Like, I don't think it's like unique to Returnal. Like I said, time for a new account. Yeah. I'll just have to sit down one day and do it, because I know for a fact that my PlayStation does things a whole lot slower than my wife's, and they're both just PS5 Pros. Sounds like a great way to spend a few bucks with a kid. You have 2 of them. Hey, I'll give you $5 to delete all my friends. Yeah, I got to write an I'm sorry letter. I decided to stop trophy hunting like a week ago because I played more on PC, and now I'm rebuilding my entire library on PC thanks to a sale. So I enjoyed going for the perks on the guns in Returnal, which was RNG based, and it was frustrating. There was a couple of times where I was getting frustrated. I could not get Obolite Magnet level 3 to drop on a Dreadbound, and it frustrated me. I was like, come on, dude. And it finally dropped. The reason I liked that, though, is because that has an actual impact on gameplay. Going for this glyph and getting a little platinum trophy to pop, it's like, that's not going to do anything to my gameplay. And going for it, in the most, silly, degenerate way possible, like running the game and the biome backwards. Like, it's like, that's not what this is supposed to be doing. Like, come on. I had all of Assassin's Creed Platinums, but Valhalla was too much. I can't play this game for 300 hours. Yeah. I've got like 40 plats. Returnals is the first I've seen tied to so much RNG. Would you say that generally going for a platinum, though, requires you to either replay the game or sections of the game in a very specific way? Like, platinums aren't happening organically, right? Like, you got to go back in and rerun things in a very specific way. That's commonly why I don't want to do them. It reminds me of when every once in a while I would dip my toe into PvP in Destiny. Every once in a while. And whenever I did, I would grab the bounties. And I would always get frustrated because it would make me play in a way that wasn't enjoyable. I was like, you got to do this, you got to get this kind of kill, and you got to use this kind of gun. And instead of just playing and having a good time, I'm like trying to do something very specific. So I'm not playing well because I'm using, a gun that I don't really like, right? Did you get the questions? You and Perfect Image submitted questions. Why Mafia didn't win something? Because it was an awesome game. I don't know why it didn't win something. It probably didn't get enough nominations and votes. Infinity Nerd says, how do you feel about this console gen being pushed to 2028-ish? I've seen some articles saying much. I don't mind at all. I love my Series X and PS5. Yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday. I appreciate the question. If it happens because of RAM, so be it. I thought they were going to extend anyway. I thought they were going to extend anyway. It didn't feel like they were in a hurry to get out of this gen. I was just reading the tea leaves, and you know what I mean? Yote's plat happened organically. Oh, really? That one happened organically for you. Death Stranding 2 Platinum took 141 hours. I was too far into the run to stop. Never doing another Kojima game Platinum. Many Platinums are organic. Mine are just play the whole game, all side content. Okay. My buddy is trying to 100% Red Dead Redemption 2. It's brutal. Some do, some don't. It's hit or miss. Okay. Here's the thing. Even if you're like 4 trophies away, and you're like, Lono, if you just went in the game and went to this town and went and got some kills and you could get it. It's like something happens to me where the best analogies I come up with are food analogies. You guys know this. To me, it's like when you go out to eat and you just throw down. You finish your drink, right? I set my margarita down. It's empty. My plate's clear. I'm full. I am full. Not to the point of feeling gross and like, I don't feel good, but just like, that's it, dude. I am at capacity. If they came to the table and they were like, do you want us to refill your chips? I would say no. They were so good when I got here an hour ago. I don't want another one. Dessert, same deal. I commonly feel like refilling the chips is going back into the game to do something like that. I'm just like, no, I'm good. I've had my fill. I'm done with this game. I've rolled credits. I'm good. I'm full. Dessert is like DLC. I'm commonly like, no, I'm good. I don't want to go back into the game. I don't want to do anything else. Like additive DLC and trophy hunting. That's what it feels like to me. I'm just like, I'm good, man. I'm ready to move on. Now, Tower of Sisyphus is different because Tower of Sisyphus is not additive. It's a complete side thing. It's a total side thing. So if, like Legends in Tsushima or something like that, where it's completely off to the side, it's this contained thing you can go do in its own sort of like world environment, whatever. That to me is different than being like, no, come back into the game and play these new missions. Dessert is Ragnarok's free update? No. No. Dessert's... No. Ragnarok's free update, the Valhalla update, or the Tower of Sisyphus, to me, that's almost like, would you like to walk around the kitchen and kind of see and meet the staff and talk to the owner? Yeah, I'd love to do that. Why? It's a completely separate thing. I'm not re-eating food. I'm not eating more food. It doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like this separate thing. Do you see? It's like Tower of Sisyphus didn't feel like additive to Returnal. It wasn't like an extra biome I had to grind and go try to do, and it added story. And Valhalla and Ragnarok, I didn't feel like I was going back into Ragnarok and like doing more missions and quests in the world. It was this separate thing over here. Tower of Sisyphus and Valhalla and Legends in Tsushima, to me, that's like the gold standard content ad. It's off to the side. You don't have to do anything in the game. You don't have to go back in and like figure out where you are in the world and like, do I need to go talk to an NPC? What does this add on to the story with this guy? Like what? No, it's like over here. It's this separate thing. I love it. It's so easy to go engage with it because it doesn't feel like I'm going back into the game. Burning Shores, I will say, as long as you're at the appropriate level, yeah, Burning Shores was a good way. You go to like a separate part of the world, and it's this completely separate contained story. Yeah, I would say Burning Shores is a good example of how I like when that's another good example. But if I've got to like go back into the game that I've already beat, and I got to go to a town I've already been to, and I got to talk to a guy, and he's going to send me somewhere, like I'm like, nah, dude, I'm good. I've had my fill. I don't want any more. Ikishima, perfect example. Exactly like Burning Shores. Oh yeah, you're done with the game? Completely contained extra story over here. You literally go somewhere else. That to me that's the way to do it. Those are really great examples of what I would say is like what DLC done right. Right? Shadow of the Erd Tree. Good example. It's contained. It's got its own rules. It's got its own leveling. After I beat Mesmer, the Impaler, I was like, I'm good. I don't want to play anymore. I've burned out on these titles. I literally beat Mesmer the Impaler, and I was like, that's it. I peaked. I'm not playing anymore. I am not playing anymore. I am out. I am over these types of games, bros. I can't hang. I'm too old. I'm too old and grumpy. I'm too old and grumpy, boys. I can't do it. AC Mirage free DLC this year. Haven't tried it yet. Phantom Liberty. Boom. Yes. Yes. Phantom Liberty is just... I think Phantom Liberty is the apex. Phantom Liberty is the apex. It's not just this self-contained thing over here that adds. It's literally a re-entry point for people that just couldn't do the beginning of that game. It literally, Phantom Liberty is like a game. It's a video game in disguise. It's like a game designed as it's like disguised as DLC. It's like Cyberpunk 1.5. It's like, yeah, it's almost a sequel. It's a 20 to 30 hour game that you don't even need to touch the main game of Cyberpunk to enjoy. I mean, Phantom Liberty is just the apex of additive content. It was magnificently done. And that's a game I started on 3 times. I just couldn't get into Cyberpunk. I tried, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. 5-hour tutorial, and it's driving tutorials that you never do again, and the brainwave thing that you only do like one more time. I was like, I'm out. I can't do it. I won't. Principal won't allow me to give Cyberpunk a chance. Yeah. There's people that act that way about No Man's Sky. Whatever you got to do. That's your prerogative. Yeah, that's your prerogative. I'm waiting for you to talk about a game I've heard of. So you haven't heard of Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, God of War, or Returnal? You've not heard of those 5 games? Fairly mainline, popular, well-known games? I don't... Did you just wake up from a coma? Hey, that Super Metroid, boys, is... that's hot. I feel like we were talking about pretty mainline games. We talked about Shadow of the Erd Tree. That's a DLC for Elden Ring, like one of the biggest games of the decade. Huh? I'm waiting to hear you talk about a game I've heard of. Just Cyberpunk, I guess. Wait, so you're for real? You've never heard of Horizon Forbidden West and God of War? You haven't heard of those games? I could understand maybe somebody not hearing about Returnal. Like if they're just super steeped in Xbox land. But God of War and Horizon? You'd have to like not watch Game Awards. You'd have to not watch showcases to not know about those games in particular. Those are pretty well-known games. I could understand somebody like, I've never really heard of Returnal. Returnal is... Sadly, I think it's the best game that PlayStation has this gen. No shot he hasn't heard of Elden Ring? Yeah, that's... I don't know. Let's see here. Your YouTube account's 8 years old. So you've been on YouTube for almost a decade. How have you not heard of these games, man? Jiminy Christmas. How'd you even wind up here? Where'd you come from? I've been playing Dune Awakening since June. Last game I bought before that was Fallout 4. No, honestly, I've not heard of them. That is remarkable to go that... So you went that long? Last game I bought before that was Fallout 4. When did you buy Fallout 4? Did you buy it for PC? Fallout 4 release date. That's 10 years ago. That's a 10-year-old game. That's a heck of a run. You went a decade without like really buying a game? He's got to be in his 60s? I mean, I'm not going to presume anything. That's interesting. That's a long run to not buy a game. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what you like. I mean, some people, bought Destiny 1 and 2 and barely touched any other game for, 8 or 9 years. There are certainly people that have gaming habits that are a little bit more narrow than others. But to be like, yeah, I bought Fallout 4 and now I'm playing Dune, but I've never heard of God of War? God of War is like a mainstay franchise within gaming for how long now? Horizon, maybe I can understand not hearing of that one, but like God of War? I don't know. 2015, yeah, for PC. Last PC I built too. I have an RTX laptop I play Dune on, though. I was going to say, I don't know if you could play Dune on a 10-year-old PC. Bro went on one of those all-expense state or federal vacations. For real, though, how long you been in? What were you in for? Yeah, there's 20 years of God of War games. Yeah, that's remarkable. I've never heard of them. Minecraft, what's that? You start talking about Fortnite, he's like, huh? Now you're talking about games I've heard of? Are you familiar with a game called Don't Drop the Soap? Jiminy Christmas. Good Lord. Uncle on that Pokemon. Yeah, dude. Man, he could call me nephew, it sounds like. On the plus side, due to some amazing games to catch on to. That's for sure. If you play on PC, man, oh man, there are some great games you can play. A little game called Baldur's Gate 3 and a little game called Elden Ring, or a little game called God of War. Jeepers. I told you? Yeah, it was an involuntary sabbatical. Came with an orange jumpsuit. Start by playing Mind's Eye. It's a certified game of the year. That, I think, would be a really, really funny experiment. To have somebody who's like completely outside of the gaming sphere, like playing the worst games. You know what I mean? Be like, all right, dad, uncle, whoever, all right, girlfriend, wife, spouse, I'm gonna have you play this game, this little game called Mind's Eye. People really liked it, and just to see what's their reaction to a game at that low caliber, I don't know why I stopped gaming, to be honest. I like older games, I guess. I think people fall in and out of gaming. A lot of my peers, a lot of the men that I'm friends with, they're my age. Some are, a little bit older with kids going into college and stuff. And they're like, yeah, I don't really game. I used to game. I used to play Call of Duty. Hang on a second. Hang on. You ever played Red Dead Redemption 2? There's no shot someone hasn't heard of God of War. Well, you got to think, though, if somebody was gaming on PC back in like the 2010s, 2015, didn't pay any attention to the console world, bought Fallout, played it a bunch, and then just kind of drifted from gaming for a while, I don't know. It'd be very easy for them to not know anything about any of those games. Right now, I have friends that played Call of Duty and Halo, and they know all those games, and I'll mention a game like God of War, and like their eyes just kind of glaze over. They're like, what? I don't know what that is. Like, they don't know what it is. There are certainly people that just are not so steeped in the world that they were in like a little bubble, little gaming bubble, and then eventually they just kind of stopped playing. And you'll mention games like that, and they're like, I don't know what that is. They'll know Minecraft, they'll know Fortnite, but you mention Horizon or God of War, and they're like, I don't know what that is. We're weirdos. I think it is a little strange to have somebody in a YouTube chat talking about gaming who's like, oh, I'm playing Dune Awakening, but I've never heard of God of War. Like, that was a little interesting. It was like, wait, huh? But then when he started talking about like his gaming experience, it's like, oh, well, it sounds like you really drifted from the industry, and maybe you're coming back to it, and so you're kind of like, yeah, I don't know what any of this stuff is that you guys are talking about. I played COD when I was only on PC. I don't get into consoles. Yeah, it's kind of like me. You guys could totally trick me and make up a fake team or fake player in baseball. You could totally trick me. You could be like, oh, no, yeah, there's a new team. Yeah. They're out in Seattle. And I would be like, okay. I wouldn't know. How do you not know? Oh, my gosh. Like, I haven't paid any attention to that sport since I was a kid. Like, it's just that those kind of things, I think happen pretty regularly. Just Lono hanging out with Bungie again. What's my rig doing? The GPU just cycled for some reason. Just dipped on the graph on the on Task Manager. That's how I feel when people say that they don't know how tensor cores work. Like, how do you not know how tensor cores work, honestly? Seattle Mariners fake team confirmed. That's what I mean. Like, if you came to me about something like that like in the past, I watched games, went to games, watched it on the television, and then I just drifted from it. Like, I don't know anything that's going on in almost any of the sports. I don't freaking know. You know, we joked this morning, I won a fantasy football league and I barely paid any attention to it. You know, I just don't know what's going on in these worlds of these places, you know? I think in gaming especially, if you think about too how fast gaming has moved, you think about the quantity of games that come out. Brother, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna feel like, wait, what are y'all talking about? What's that? Da-da-da-da-da. Like, I start talking to some of the guys in my circles about everything kind of going on in the industry, and they're like, man, I just feel so disconnected from that world now. Like, they don't have even the remote. I'm like their touch point to the gaming world. So like once in a blue moon, they'll get kind of the skinny on what's going on in the gaming world for me. You know? You haven't heard that the Baltimore Orioles are moving to Buffalo and changing their name to Spicy Wings? I'm telling you, if you made it believable, I would totally fall for it. I feel that when Wired Rope's talking drama, like streamer drama. Yeah. I don't know, maybe confirmation bias, but I cleared out all my messages and I trimmed down my friends list from 120 to 40, and my menu on PlayStation already feels faster. Yeah, it's not surprising at all. I agree, too many games come out. More about quantity over quality. Sorry if that sounds old. I actually think, if you're careful, the quantity can serve the quality. And what I mean is, if you pay close attention, you're careful, and you don't pre-order, and you kind of wait, you can buy the best games and avoid everything else. Like, you really can. Like, especially if you don't mind kind of waiting and seeing, like, okay, what's the deal with this Expedition 33? You know, what's the deal with this Ghost of Yote? You know, what's the deal with this this Hades 2? Like, these are obviously high quality, trustworthy games at this point because they've hit, and like, their praise and user response is undeniable. There's an entire area of knowledge and expertise. I can't remember who Ralph is. Yeah, people get really weird about like using first names for creators, and like people are like, they try to make that into something. Everything I say, they try to make it, you know, into something. Like I could say, like, I don't really like chewing gum, and they'd find a way to make that a negative. But like, it's because I've been in that world, and you just use their names. Like, when you've been in that world and you've been on a stage and interviewed people and hung out with folks in that world, like, you're not sitting around going, "Hey, skill up." Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you're not like, "Hey, day 9." Like, when you're just hanging out with these people and you're like, "Yeah, these are just normal people." You're not like in the habit of using their username. Like, I'm not trying to act like I'm buddy with these people. I'm not. I don't have open friendships and DMs with these people. It's just more natural for me to call them by their name. Like, yeah, Moist Critical. No, that's Charlie. Like, what do you mean? I'm not trying to act like I know them. It just makes more sense to me. Like, yeah, Moist Critical made a video. Skill Up made a video. It's like, I don't know. It just, maybe I'm getting old. Rissick with the gifted. Thank you so much, Rissick. Adds to the total. We're at 533 on the week. Yeah, Moist. Moist made a vid. The heck? Like, are you going to call, what are you going to call it? You going to call Paris Lily vicious? You going to call him his Twitter handle? No, you're like, that's Paris. Like, what? He does refer to himself as Charlie. This is true. Some people kind of go by their name, for sure. I've just always been like, some people call you Reforge. That's the weirdest thing when people come in and call me Reforge, or they call me Reforge in their content. I'm like, I don't know who Reforge is. I don't know who that is. That's not me. It's not my handle or my personality or any of that. Yo, Stone Spire's bumping the line to 534. Thank you, Stone Spire. We call you Lono. Yeah, but Lono's kind of a stage name. Like, there are people that have stage names. Like Ezekiel the Third or Zeke, right? Like, that's like a stage name. Yo, Stone Spire coming in with another one, 535. Thank you, sir. Like, having a stage name is one thing, but being like, once you know a person's name, like, Lono isn't like a brand. That's just what I go by. Who calls you Lucas? Sometimes people come in and call me that. I don't freaking care. It's never bothered me. It doesn't bother me in the least if someone comes in and calls me by that. So, like, yeah, I don't use people's names to try to seem like I'm on the inside or something. It just doesn't make sense once I know a person's name to be like, you know, I don't know. Like, you're going to call Jake Baldino Game Ranks? Like, I don't know Game Ranks has multiple creators, but still. Rissick comes in with another single, adding to the total. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I've never said you can't call me that. I don't care. You can always tell when a streamer had a name they made up when they were 13 or something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You should tell that people that Lucas is short for Lucasfilm. Your dad really loved Ewoks. Growing up with Star Wars being super popular, being named Lucas was quite an experience. People would either say, Luke, I am your father, or they would be like, are you related to George Lucas? And I'm like, yeah, I sure am. My first name is such an indication of that. It was bad. The jokes were bad. I would have rather been teased about being short than have to hear another Luke, I am your father, or any of those things. No one calls Alana Char Ferrara. Yeah, it's all Alana or Alana Pierce. Yeah. Yeah, like if I was having a conversation about DSP, I would call him Phil. I'm like, that's Phil. What do you mean? Like, what? I don't think that's I don't know. It may just be the way that maybe it's because I don't view people as like they're like a product to be consumed. I'm like, that's a person. Like, that's Skill Up. That's Ralph. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Was that why George Lucas named his main character Luke? I never thought about that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's where it came from. Lionel's real name is Lucas confirmed. That's correct. What's funny is I was up in Ohio for Thanksgiving, and we were at this toy store, and a friend of mine from high school, he still to this day calls me Lono. He's basically the reason that I took on the name Lono. Because he told me, we were sitting in the lunchroom one day, and he told me that I reminded him of Dennis Leary. And so I checked him out, thought he was funny, and then I worked at Hollywood Video at the time, so I rented the movie Suicide Kings that has Dennis Leary in it, and Dennis Leary's character's name is Lono. So I switched my handle in my Quake 3 clan, my Quake 3 Rocket Arena clan, and my AOL Instant Messenger name. I switched everything to Lono. And it literally became like a persona for me. Like, in people that knew me And guys that I went to school with that were in my Quake clan, they called me Lono. That was just it. And to this day, a couple of them, that's what they call me. They don't call me Lucas. They call me Lono. In defense, it is weird for some people who have to run the names you use through a translation to figure out who you mean. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Mario is Luigi. Oh, and Luigi Mario. That's right. Went back to AIM. That's right. I honestly thought Lono was your real name. A lot of people thought that. When I met at E3 2019 and like I met DJ Wheat and Anna Prosser. Well, I had met them before at like a workshop. Twitch did like a workshop for hosting. And so when I met them, they were all saying like, well, what do you want in your lower third? Like when we introduce you, should we introduce you as Say No to Rage? What should we introduce you at? And I said, my name's Lucas and nobody calls me that. Everybody calls me Lono. And they were like, what? They're like, we thought that was your name. It's like such a cool name. And I'm like, it's not my name. But I was like, yeah, I'd be happy to have you put there, Lono, and then below just put, at Say No to Rage. And so they would speak to me as Lono. They would be like, what do you think? Say No to Rage. Although I think a couple of times Anna Prosser did that, like by mistake. Which I don't know if she's changed her name. She got married. But yeah, they would refer to me as that. So like in those environments, there were people all of the time that thought that. They're like, oh, we thought your name was Lono. And I was like, no. So my AIM was Then Jesse Replied. People loved it. Man, oh man. The emo poetry lyric away messages that you could use on AIM to like really say something. To really let your friends know what was going on in your life. Oh my gosh. So melodramatic back then. Yeah, there it is. AIM away messages. That's it, dude. That's it. That was the way. Yeah, right. Look at this. Just look at this. This is it, dude. This is it. Hang on, let me switch the cap card. I'm not a perfect person. There's many things I wish I didn't do. And the reason is you and a broken heart. Dude, this was it. This was everything. This was everything. I didn't go into all the colors and stuff. I think I would usually set the background to black and I'd do different things with the font colors and stuff, but not like this. Yeah, a little bit of Hoobastank for you. That's it, man. That was the way. You really said something with your away message, Get some good Linkin Park in there or something, Oh my gosh. Be right back. Grabbing lunch. I can't stop thinking about her. Yeah, dude. That or your MySpace, you'd have like, your whole page. The worst thing about MySpace was the people that when you got there, it would start playing music and you couldn't get it to stop. Like you couldn't find it. You're like, where is the music playing? Find them and destroy them. It was like, what is this? Why is there? Because usually what would happen is right beneath like their main profile blurb with their picture and stuff, there'd be a music player. And you'd be like, bing, and you'd be like, oh gosh. And you'd like, click pause. The worst was when you couldn't find it. They would have it like embedded or hidden. And you're like, what is this? Why can't I hated that. Were you crawling in the dark after making that? All of his AIM friends are gone. Huh? I bet homie that doesn't know about God of War remembers. Oh, yeah. He knows about AIM. He's like, oh, I know all about that. Yeah, he probably knows about ICQ. And IRC. Yeah. Oh my gosh. We used Roger Wilco to communicate when we played Quake with microphones. We used Roger Wilco. That was before, what was the other one? Like Trillo and... Frick, what was the other one that people used? You almost married your AIM friend? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Twitch chat still uses IRC. It does. It's built on IRC. This is correct. What is Roger Wilco? Yeah, TeamSpeak was the other one. Yeah, let me see if I can find a picture of it. Roger Wilco app for talking. Let me see if there's any pictures of it. Roger Wilco enabled people. It was one of the first voice over IP client programs for multiplayer video games. Undergraduate students at Princeton made it. The company began publishing pre-release versions of the software in 1998. The first general release of Roger Wilco Mark I was in 1999. So I'm still in high school. I haven't graduated yet. The server-side software was called Roger Wilco Base Station. It was developed for Linux, FreeBSD, Windows 9, or Windows NT. Yep. Roger Wilco. Developed by GameSpy. This is a totally real thing. It's totally real thing. This is what we used. We used this, and then we used something else. I forget what we used after we used Roger Wilco. But yeah. I love when people try to pull like gamer cred on me. I'm like, homie, I was there when the old Magic was written. You have no freaking clue. Like, I am what you would call an OG. You know, like I was there at the beginning of all of this. Everything you do now was birthed when I was literally like becoming more of a gamer than just like Nintendo in the family room, you know, building a PC, having a Quake 3 Rocket Arena clan, going to a big huge LAN party in Dearborn, Michigan. I went there twice. They did it on the college campus. That was incredible. Yeah, man. That was a time. That was quite the time. You guys got me reminiscing and we went past 3 hours. I didn't mean to do that. I did not mean to do that. I like to end these streams before 3 hours. We got to kind of get out of here. It's after 1 o'clock. Use a baud modem? I don't think so. I don't remember. I don't actually remember. Yeah. It was a Model T Discord. Yeah, IRC was a Model T Discord, 100%. It started with an M, but everybody called it IRC. The classic version, so like it would look like this. This is kind of the version that I remember using. Oh, for frick's sake! It downloaded the image instead of just opening it. So it basically looked like this. This is kind of like what it would look like. So you would have your rooms you could go into over here, your people over here, and then your chat here, and it, you know, the timestamps, and you could reply and say stuff. Like that's basically what it looked like whenever I used it. It was roughly like that. $5 super chat from Broken Earth. I used the same line when my little nephew tried to tell me about Pokemon. That's right. That's right. Yeah. When people try to claim like I'm a tourist or a grifter and like I don't really play games or I don't know about games, it's like, yeah, don't reach, young blood. You're going to pull a muscle. You're talking about MIRC, not IRC? How are they not the exact same thing? We always called it IRC for short. Is there a program that doesn't have the M? Tyler Johnson with a VIP, 53 months. Let me add you to the total. Boom. Because one says M. But that's what I mean. Like, Was there literally an application without the M? I don't remember anybody using that. What? Indeed? I can't even find pictures of it. IRC is a protocol? That's what I mean. Like, I don't remember anybody ever talking about that. Like, you can download IRC. Like, MIRC is what everybody used that I knew, and we all just called it IRC. Nobody called it MIRC. It's a protocol? So it wasn't like an application that like people were downloading and using. It was a protocol that you could use within programming or within a program that you built. So that's different, right? That wasn't like a consumer-facing application you could go and download, like ICQ or Roger Wilco or something like that. It sounds like it was a protocol you could use to build with. It's what all of it was built on. Right, okay, yeah. The way you said it, I thought there was like another version of MIRC that people had downloaded and used that was different or something that like you could use in a similar way instead of being like a protocol that you could use. MIRC is the application that used it. Right, okay, that makes sense to me because I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember that. I remember people only talking about this one in particular. It was built into news groups and readers. I don't know. I remember there were forums. There were news groups you could go, and like you could get in a food fight in one of them. It was so old. It was a black background, and it was like a dot matrix printer style text would scroll, and you could like throw food at people, and it would make like ASCII art appear on their screens, like a watermelon would hit their screen or an orange or something, and it would like scroll up as people chatted. Yeah. We could also share files. Yeah, we didn't do that. We just had like our clans in there. It was a way to like meet and schedule scrimmages and, things like that. Yeah. Plebs used Napster, and those in the know used IRC. Yeah, I remember I used Napster, and then there was another one. There was a handful of places that we would go for like music. You get the 300-piece file, and then you'd ask someone to repost the 2 pieces you were missing. Oh my gosh, I remember that. ASCII art, the path tracing of the command line. Yeah. Yeah, I remember needing like the pieces and parts of the file. Yes, there was a way we were doing it. I forget. I would like download games or something, and you'd get LimeWire, and you'd get like some of the pieces and some of the parts, and you wouldn't have them all. Oh my gosh, what the frick? That's a crazy time. All right, well, I'm gonna call it there. I need a break anyway. I need a break, and we're so well off topic. I need a break anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and edit the description of this video now. We didn't do any chapters, timestamps, or reactions. We just kind of free flowed today because there wasn't a whole lot going on in gaming news. So I'm gonna adjust that now. Yeah. So if you guys are not in the Discord, it's a great reason to be a Discord. If you're not a member, I do this full time, and we are in a pretty significant need of the membership to improve. It's why we kind of brought everybody home from Twitch. And for $6 a month, you're on Member Plus. You get into extra content. You get into the Discord, and it helps me do this. So, the price of a cup of coffee once a month helps me do this full time. We're trying to get that Member Plus number to 500. It slipped quite a bit when we kind of split everybody up, and we had some people watching on Twitch and some people watching over here. So, yeah, appreciate you guys. And if you're not in the Discord, you're missing out. That's a great way to stay connected. I'll see you guys over there in the Discord momentarily. Thanks for watching today, guys. Hit like on the way out as well. We could probably get this like count a little bit closer to 300. All right, take care.